This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Daddy's hosting today, kids.
Oh, yeah.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
What team are we going to be surprised that gets a little more primetime action?
The Jets, because they're going to go 14-2.
Today's guests, CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis, voice of NBC Sunday Night Football, Al Michaels, Fox Sports broadcaster Joe Buck, actor Jonathan Banks, plus Jim Nantz. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Okay, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Eisen Show. We have paperwork. I've got grids. I've got
color-coded?
I've got color-coded grids. I've got
We're
team-by-team schedules. I've got week-by-week schedules right here. I got paperwork. Who's got paperwork, everybody? Brockman, you have paperwork?
I got
over there?
paperwork. I got
paperwork. Mike Del
I got all
Tufo's
kinds
got
of colored
paperwork.
bars.
Yeah,
This one even
baby.
has like turkey emojis on it for the Thanksgiving game.
Nice. Yeah, Christmas Friday night Christmas games, Thanksgiving games.
Let's do it. Let's have a season.
Let's have a season.
I
mean, this was
Let's go.
By the way, this is the point of the NFL. It's just like, okay, we're going to do this. And you know, just let's go down the rabbit hole together for the night.
Why not?
Let's go down the rabbit hole together for the night. And if we can't do it, we'll let you know when we can't.
Yeah.
If we can do it, knock on wood if you're with me.
Let's do this.
You know what I mean? Like, that's where it is right now. What are we looking to Roger Goodell to figure out how to cure COVID-19? Is that what we're looking for? I mean, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
I mean, you had this sensation yesterday, Mike, being the season ticket holder that you are for the Los Angeles Rams and the Las Vegas Raiders.
And the Raiders.
I know. And my brother, you know, bless him, sitting down here in the South Bay in Southern California where he's been living for 25 years now. He's like, Jets coming to play the Chargers and the Rams. And he's just
games.
Like, he's ready. He was, as he pointed out in a text to me, he's ready to show the world that the Jets fans can travel and fill up a stadium too. All right? That everyone fills up a stadium on the Chargers locally here because they're transplanted. Right. He's ready to go to both.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I had my BFF Bill Belichick on last night on the 4-hour schedule release show. The Patriots have a Sunday game against the Chargers and then a Thursday night game against the Rams.
I have no explanation for what happened.
And it's a 5-day stint here in Southern California, right? You can even spend an extra few days.
Sounds great.
I told him if you need restaurant recommendations, we're in.
Dinner Rex.
I'll take him out on the boat.
We'd love to do it.
Fishes.
We'd love to.
I mean, please take Bill out.
That would be a half ring.
Half ring.
Half ring. It's 6
7 and a half fewer rings than you're used to. Fugazi ring.
Fugazi ring. It's perfect. Right?
That's the name of your boat.
My brother Frank will love that one.
We'd all love it. We would all love it. All of us. And I had Troy Vincent, the EVP of football operations, on because everybody's looking at this schedule for a nest egg, right? Some hidden nest eggs where you could basically just lop off the first 4, tack it on as the back 4, and you got a schedule if you have to delay it a month. Or you lop off the first 8 and you put it on the back half of and now you got a schedule. Or you front load all of the conference games up front. That was one of the rumors that you were hearing, that the first 4 weeks were all going to be AFC versus NFC and vice versa. To, you know, if the NFL needed to delay for a month or cancel a quarter of the season, well, you know what? Those are the games that don't matter in tiebreakers, essentially. If you get down to it, it's, you know, obviously common opponents would you'd get down to it eventually, but it's always the tiebreaker in division, tiebreaker in conference. I asked Troy Vincent, hey, is there any other schedule that's out there that the NFL schedule makers put up in a top drawer, an 8-game schedule, 12-game schedule?
12.
He's like, no, this is it. And if there is one, I don't know it. They haven't told us what it is.
So they're just going to go back to the drawing board, essentially?
No,
or
I don't know, and nobody knows right now. I mean, they may have an idea that, okay, we can delay everything. Let's call up Tampa and say, hey, can you give me Raymond James Stadium for the middle of March?
Yeah.
Can you give us Raymond James Stadium in the middle of April? I mean, this is the way you could do all of that. And everybody gets their schedule, takes a look at it, looks for their team, and I'm willing to go over the entire schedule with you. I mean, shoot, we do have 3 hours. I had 4 hours last night, so I'm ready to do this standing on my head. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. You're out there in Sirius XM land. You're out there in our youtube.com/Rich Eisen show stream, in our chat room, the Wormhole, the 454's out there. One day I can't wait to get back traveling around in an Uber to get that rating up, so the 454's will have to change their name. That'll be a great day.
We got a hot question this morning in the Wormhole, Rich.
Yes.
Guys want to know, what color is that sweater?
It is. You've got a better look at it right now. What do you think?
It appears to be plum from over here.
Yeah.
Just call me the professor.
All right.
With the schedule in the studio. Killing it. I am. That is a plum color.
Excellent.
Black suit, black tie.
No. I didn't even suit up last night. By the way, I don't know if you noticed, there were some internet issues in my area.
Oh.
So the home cam setup we spent hours, and God bless my man Bjorn at NFL Network coming to my house.
Oh, man.
After quarantining specifically. Guy quarantined specifically to install the camera in my house.
Yep.
He comes suited and booted. Again, I said to NFL Network, he needs to come dressed like Walter White. Speaking of whom, Mike Ehrmantraut of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad fame, Jonathan Banks, is on this show. We'll take a break from our entire going down the schedule wormhole. Charles Davis, newly of CBS Sports, formerly of Fox, Al Michaels, Joe Buck, and Jim Nantz right around Jonathan Banks. That's it. That's what we call a 3-hour show.
This is great.
So,
and we already have quarterback news this morning.
Yeah, how about that? Phillip Rivers. Drew Brees, when he retires, is going to go to sit next to Mike Tirico, it seems. Not only on NBC Sports in the Sunday Night Football studios, but also call some Notre Dame football games, it appears. And Phillip Rivers has announced today. Do you have the name of the school, Christopher Brockman? The high school in Alabama? I've got it right here. It is St. Michael Catholic.
In Fairhope, Alabama.
Has announced already this morning that when Phillip Rivers retires, he is going to be the football head coach there, doing some Friday Night Lights.
I love that.
When he's done playing football in the NFL, clear eyes, full heart, can't lose.
I love it.
Phillip Rivers.
I got to imagine, you want to talk about a red ass who plays the quarterback position in the National Football League, and now this guy's going to be your high school football coach? Oh, baby.
They announced this morning that when his career ends, Phillip Rivers is going to be the head coach there. In the meantime, the athletic director, Paul Napstein, will be the interim coach. And I got to be very honest with you. I'm always shooting you straight. You know where I'm going with this, Chris?
I do.
Didn't think that somebody named Paul Napstein would be at St. Michael Catholic High School in Fairhope, Alabama. Sounds like a guy I shared bunk 8 with in Camp Loconda many moons ago.
Like, start bench cut the 3 of those things. The tribe at a Catholic school in Alabama.
Paul Napstein, how'd you find your way down there, man? Although my dad, rest his soul, was a college advisor at a Catholic school in Staten Island, New York, after his retirement. So
there it goes. Yeah.
You could sit there and say, how did a Joel Eisen wind up here?
Dr. Del Tufo, my father, went to Yeshiva University in New York City.
Did he really?
Yes. Huh. I used to go with him. And he was taking his.
And you celebrate. You celebrate that by what do you do on Shabbos? You spin discs.
Exactly.
That's how you roll on Shabbos.
And the Jaguars signed a quarterback.
Who do we have?
McGlennon.
The Jets did, not the Jaguars.
No, the Jaguars.
The Jaguars signed McGlennon? I thought the Jets did. I thought that was the New York Jets. No, it's the Jaguars.
No, the Jaguars signed McGlennon.
McGlennon. By the way, we referred to him as McGlennon because Warren Sapp, after Mike Glennon, if you recall, threw an interception so badly that It was behind the line of scrimmage, but it flew out of his hands. He was so disgusted by his Tampa Bay Buccaneer Mike Glennon's career. He referred to him as Mick Glennon.
Just combined it all into one word.
And that was his nickname on a couple of seasons of NFL Game Day Morning, and you just went NFL Game Day Morning. I
just went Game Day Morning.
Mick Glennon was
Mike Glennon is on
Mike Glennon is his name, or as we saw in Hard Knocks, Glennon.
Glennon.
Mike Glennon. Peter Mann and Glennon. So
you want to talk about a guy that's made some money.
Well, I mean, with Foles gone, they needed somebody whose neck is as tall as Nick Foles. So they went with Mike Glennon.
Wow. Mike Glennon career earnings.
Yeah.
$29 million in 7 years.
Oh, baby. That's how Jake Fromm's going to make his living, man. Jacob Fromm is going to be a very rich man holding a clipboard for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. The NFL didn't wait long, bro. We're gonna get that week one, and everyone's like, week one, it's just gonna be something that they can just lop off and not have. And then what comes out of the gate
week one's pretty tight.
What comes out of the gate in week one, all right, is exactly what we're looking for. The we being everybody but the front office of the Chicago Bears. Because as we're probably getting set for Nick Foles starting in Detroit for the Bears in week one, later on Sunday, September 13th, the whole country is settling in to watch the two quarterbacks that they chose Mitchell Trubisky over. Everybody will be tuned in, excited to watch, with the exception of Chicago Bears front office and potentially coaching staff. Watson at Mahomes, and man, Al Michaels, who's our first guest on the NBC SN Hour, is ready to roll to watch all the points come in. And as we all know, that was the game where the Texans had the Chiefs dead to rights. They were smoking them, and then Mahomes scored 19 unanswered touchdowns on the way to letting all of the exhale of Chiefs Kingdom. I was watching the disaster unfold. And then I love some of these games. Look at that. Seattle at Atlanta is a nice, neat start. Division games. Browns and Ravens. You've got the Bears and Lions. You've also got the Eagles and Redskins. You've got the Cardinals and the 49ers, which will be a great one. And then, of course, the Patriots and the Bills week one. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the Jets have to go visit the Bills in week one. My bad. The Jets have to visit the team that is the assumed best team in the AFC East because they got not one, not two, not three, but 4 nationally televised games. Oh, no. The Patriots get to open at home against the Dolphins. No. The Dolphins beat them last year. Do you know the last time the Dolphins beat Bill Belichick in back-to-back years in New England? Name it. I'll give you the answer. It's never happened. It's never happened. Last time the Dolphins won back-to-back years in New England was 99 and 2000 when they beat Pete Carroll and Belichick in his first year.
Wow.
Okay. So it's never happened. So let the Jets go. But, just to dive in a little bit, the Patriots' first road game is the very next week, and that is the Seattle home opener in front of the 12s. And again, we're going down the wormhole here. I understand where they
Yeah.
It would be very fitting. The Patriots' first game for Stidham on the road would be in Seattle with no fans, so he can hear every last snap. But no, I'm not going to really go down that wormhole.
You really said that.
No, I did. Oh, no. Yes, I did just say that.
And you think that's what? That's the schedule makers?
No, it's not the schedule makers.
Kind to the Patriots?
It's the football gods.
Because they always shine on New England? The same football gods that gave Tom Brady a 4-game suspension for air? Like, come on.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I just look at the Jets schedule and I look at the Patriots schedule, and I know it's exactly the same with the exception of 2 games. And it just, when I look at the Jets schedule, it just looks like a total disaster in the making. Certainly if, Darnold gets rickets for the first 6 weeks. That's my take. That's my take.
Okay, hold on a second.
That's my
hold on
take.
a second.
But Don,
get
Bowie,
Ricketts.
put the week 1 schedule back up again.
Do you want a symptom of rickets?
I don't care.
mean,
I don't care. It was the first thing that hopped into my head.
it's a children thing with the vitamin D deficiency.
What did I tell you about the opener of the Rams Stadium? It would be the Rams first, obviously, not the Chargers. It's Kroenke's dime, not the Spanos's. And who did I tell you would be walking in that building?
Oh, yeah.
But the guy who was very instrumental in getting the stadium to be here up the road in Los Angeles, as opposed to down the road where the Chargers and the Raiders apparently wanted to get together.
Right.
And it was this guy, along with Kraft, who put their thumbs on the scale and say, no. We're going to have the Los Angeles Rams in Los Angeles in the spot where the current stadium is being built up the road from our studios right around LAX. And it's the Dallas Cowboys, who, by the way, whose owner, Jerry Jones, also has that group, I believe, along with the Yankees, who sell stadium name rights around the world. And Jerry Jones's company is the one that made the deal with SoFi for that stadium just up the road. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be here.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's a monster huge Sunday night football game to start the season. And I do like the double dip. On the Monday nighter on ESPN, Steelers and the Giants, the old Rooney Mara Bowl. And by the way, that is why Rooney Mara is named Rooney Mara, because the Steelers and the Giants owners have been friends for a long time. They sit next to each other at owners' meetings. So Steelers-Giants is a great Monday night football game for the league, as well as ESPN. Sign them up for that. And then the Titans and the Broncos are a neat AFC tilt between the runners-up of the American Football Conference last year, Derrick Henry, in the thin air with Ryan Tannehill, and we'll see the remade Denver Broncos. I like that game. Yeah, and then the late window on Fox of week 1, we've got our buddy Joe Buck calling in on that one. He will no doubt be sitting there in New Orleans. Tom Brady's first game as a Buck is not only his first game in the NFC South, it is, in fact, Brady versus Breeze week 1. A piece of filet mignon steak served up for all of us after we watch the 1 o'clock afternoon games, and they're right there, served up for all of us. Most of the country, Brady Breeze. Come on.
I mean,
let's go.
I know. It's great. And then, other parts of the country will be seeing Cardinals remade DeAndre Hopkins against the defending NFC champion 49ers. A great weekend. And these late windows on CBS, Jim Nantz joining us at the end of this program. And I guess we're getting Charles Davis on the phone line. Do we call him? Is that the setup with that? Because I was told he was going to be joining us earlier on than right now on the clock. Maybe this is the one that they'll send Charles and I an Eagle to. Chargers at Bengals. Joe Burrow's first game against the Chargers. I doubt it'll be Justin Herbert, because I don't think a rookie without OTAs and probably much of a training camp that we're used to is going to beat out Tyrod Taylor. But I'll be in on all that, right?
Absolutely.
Love the week 1 Packers Vikings. Colts Jaguars. Phillip Rivers against Mike Glennon.
Gardner Minshew.
I know. Browns Ravens. Raiders Panthers. And then if the Raiders open up on the road to start, and then the home opener in the Death Star in Las Vegas, Nevada, that I hope you get to go to, is the Monday nighter of week 2. Saints Raiders.
Amazing.
I mean,
that's great, man. I'm looking forward to that. 844-204-RICH number to dial. I just broke down week 1 of the NFL schedule. And Joe Buck, Al Michaels, Jim Nantz still to come. And Jim Nantz, now a CBS colleague of this man, who deserves every last bit of congratulations on his new deal with CBS Sports after yeoman's work in the booth with Kevin Burkhardt for so many years, number 2 crew on Fox. One of our great friends, Charles Davis. How are you, CD?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it very, very much. Trust you and your family are still healthy and safe, as I hope everyone who can hear our voices is the same.
Yes, thank goodness we're all healthy and well, and that does include my children coming into my office several times during last night's 4-hour broadcast of this schedule, because that's where the iPads were being charged. We thankfully there was, they snuck in, snuck out. I was able to conduct my appointed rounds. So you have no idea what your games are, right? I mean, I know that's a crazy question, but
no, not at the moment.
Okay, so
not at the moment.
But I'm wondering what your first blush thoughts of that Week 1 schedule. I just kind of broke it all down. What leaps out to you, Charles?
Well, immediately, we knew obviously what Kansas City would be doing in terms of hosting, who they would get. Well, that wasn't a major surprise, but I think everyone's locked in on Sunday night, New Orleans and Tampa. I mean, it's hard to get past that, isn't it?
That's going to be great.
My goodness. I mean, right out of the gate, we wondered what it would be. We knew it would be one of the primes, right? I mean, duh. You knew Brady would be in one of them, but would it be Monday night, Sunday night? We knew it wasn't going to be Thursday. So that one just jumped right out at me, right out of the gate. We just thought, okay, makes sense. All right, this is fantastic. Let's move this bad boy along. And then you just kind of, as you go through the schedule, you can't help but look at quarterback matchups. But I have one that I found interesting early, deep into the schedule, Rich, in December. A playoff team that is trying its best to make that last step. Thought they were going to a couple of years ago, didn't get there. Foiled again last year in the divisional round, the Minnesota Vikings. And remember, Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the guy that put them over the top. Well, here's Tampa Bay, getting Brady, Gronk, having a good draft, great offseason. They're trying to go essentially from worst to first and compete for a Super Bowl in their home stadium. That's a game in December. Playoff team, non-playoff team, although you don't suspect that the Tampa Bay will be that. That one looks like fun because Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the difference, and here he's got a chance going against TB12. It's just games like that fascinate me, Rich.
Charles Davis here on the Rich Eisen Show. And how about the Buffalo Bills, man? I know you'll be calling a few of those games now with CBS. The Bills have not one, not two, not three, but 4 nationally televised appearances. And they earned it, man. I mean, they went into Dallas and spanked them on Thanksgiving. They went into Houston and should have won that playoff game. They've got some guys that are going to be winding up on your fantasy team as opposed to previous years. How good do you think the Bills can be, Charles?
I think they can be very good. I think for the Bills, their biggest hurdle, truthfully, Rich, in my mind, is just the specter of New England, because they will go into the season as the favorite in the AFC East. And when was the last time we said anyone was the favorite in the AFC East other than New England?
Yeah.
Like even the years New England didn't win it outright, they tied for it. And remember, we had that crazy, quirky year where they won 11-5 with Matt Castle after TB12 got hurt in Game 1 at Kansas City and didn't make the playoffs. Just one of those weird seasons that something like that would happen at 11-5. So for Buffalo, the good thing they've got going for them is they played New England really tough. I mean, that's not been an easy one. Look, last year, Buffalo was probably right on NFL Network Air, if I remember correctly, Rich, that Saturday.
Yep.
If Josh Allen doesn't airmail that throw to Dawson Knox late in the game in the end zone.
My gosh.
Right there. So, to me, it's the specter of New England for Buffalo more than anything else. I think this is a team that's still on the rise. And Josh Allen, I'll guarantee you he's putting the work in the offseason, even though we're all limited because of the pandemic that's out there.
Another team, too, that you'll be seeing more often than not that I'm fascinated by is Denver. Nobody's going to, you know what I mean? Like, they're going to be flying under the radar. We're going to be talking about the defending Super Bowl champs. We're going to be talking about is Justin Herbert taking over for the Chargers. We're absolutely going to be talking about the Raiders for good reason. But nobody's going to be talking about the Broncos, whose offense, if Locke can show up in the manner in which he was beginning to show up at the end of last year, they can make some hay with Fangio tightening the bolts on the defense as the HC. Charles, wouldn't you say?
And you know where else they got good, Rich? It's easy on offense to say, okay, you've added Melvin Gordon to Phillip Lindsay in the backfield. Check. You've added at the tight end position in the draft Alberto going in there with Noah Fant. Obviously, Judy and Hamler adding to the receiving core. But they got better in the interior. Graham Glasgow coming from Detroit right now is penciled in to be the starting center. But then they drafted Lloyd Cushenberry out of LSU, who I think is a natural starting center, and Glasgow's got great experience playing guard. Either way, I expect both of them to be in the lineup, whichever configuration they want. And now you've gotten better in front of your quarterback. And what drives a quarterback craziest in the NFL? Got pressure. Those two will help tamp that down. So I think they made a lot of good moves in the offseason.
Okay, I know we just went a little bit under the radar here. What do you think of the Colts and Phillip Rivers? Did you, by the way, hear about Phillip's announcement today, Charles?
Another baby?
I love that's where your first thought went.
By the way, that was like a Family Feud moment. Top 5 answers on the board. Here's your question. Phillip Rivers made this big announcement today. You just buzzed in with baby. Do you have the buzzer, Mike?
No.
Do you not have the buzzer? Show me. You do have the buzzer.
No,
the
I mean, I played
buzzer?
I played it off of YouTube. I'm sorry. I'll get it.
Show me, baby. No.
Wow.
No, he announced that he is going to be. Wow, that is fantastic.
That would be number 10.
He is the next, but not on the on the Phillip Rivers board,
Yes,
not on our
yeah,
top 10 answers. No, he is going to be taking over the head coach of the high school football program at St. Michael Catholic in Fairhope, Alabama, when he's done playing.
Oh, he is doing it then. He's absolutely doing it because he did say that, obviously his father was a coach, and Phillip, the famous story of him throwing the football and that motion coming from the big football.
Right.
The whole deal, and here he is following in Dad's footsteps, and he did mention that about his kids being that age and wanting to coach them. He's actually doing it. And obviously, look, the broadcasting gig was out there for him if he wanted it. Plenty of people were in play for him. But he's going to follow his heart and go ahead and do the coaching. Now, the crazy part is, Dave Logan up in Denver. Dave does the Broncos radio and has for years. Dave stayed as a coach of high school football while doing the Broncos radio. A little bit different than network TV because of timing.
Sure.
But he did that for years, and by the way, won a ton of state championships up there. They were very good. Congratulations to Phillip, and maybe extra congratulations to Mrs. Rivers that there's not baby number 10 on the way for her.
Right. But I don't think Phillip – a lot of people are talking about Phillip, one-year deal, one and done in Indianapolis. I know they picked Jacob Eisen, but I don't see Eisen as the starting quarterback there in 2021. I see Phillip maybe sticking around here, certainly if he wins and gets to a Super Bowl, gets close to it.
If he plays at a high level, Rich, if he plays at a high level, Chris Ballard and Frank Reich will be bringing another contract to him. And I expect Phillip to want to play. He loves playing football. He'll take over being a high school coach when the time's right. But if he still feels that he's playing at that Phillip Rivers level, which was just 2 years ago, was a pretty darn good level, yeah, I can see that. I'm with you on that one. Jacob Eason, I don't think is like a super threat right away. Jacob Eason, we'll find out about him, Rich, if their season really goes awry, which I don't expect it to do in Indianapolis. I expect them to be very good.
All right, and now I've got 2 minutes left with you, Charles. So who is the favorite in the AFC? Is it the defending champions, world champion Chiefs? And I don't ask that question with any disrespect. Normally, you do have to put the defending Super Bowl champions atop a conference that they won. But the Ravens did finish as the 1 seed last year. And the Chiefs and the Ravens never faced each other in the playoffs, thanks to Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill and the Titans. Who do you install as the favorites to win the conference that you'll be covering the most on CBS?
I do install Kansas City because it feels like a college return. 20 of 22 starters, and Rich, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, they never really got tested in terms of resolve in the offseason. You know what it's like for a Super Bowl champ.
Right.
Everyone's doing commercials, TV shows, radio shows, all the whole deal. They haven't had to really do that. It's been a quiet one. So they are the favorites. Baltimore has unfinished business, obviously, and they got way better in the offseason free agency and in the draft. Don't overlook Tennessee. They announced to the world, we're going to play Tennessee football, aren't we, by drafting Isaiah Wilson in the first round, the right tackle from Georgia. So it's going to be fun to see. And look, Mike Vrabel's got the best Swiss watch guard that we've ever seen during the draft sitting by his desk. So he's good to go.
Yeah, Kingsbury called it the circus when we had him on talking about his beautiful Bond hangout, draft setup. But
oh my God. Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury won. I mean, let's face it, he won no matter what. The best for me was seeing him there. And you know how everyone had all the accoutrements around him. Even BA, he may have had the glass of wine out there, but he had the computers and sitting out on the deck, and of course doing it very BA-ish.
Right.
Cliff was chilling. I didn't see a computer. I didn't see all the rest of that stuff there. Cliff, I got this under control, folks. I'm winning.
Because it was all out in the cabana. That's why. You know. Hey, Charles, congrats.
It was beautiful. We're all jealous.
Congrats on your new gig, brother. You're well deserving of it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and let me know when you get your new blazer with the CBS logo on it. Take a picture. I want to see it. I still have my blazer right here in the closet of the Rich Eisen Show green room. I still have mine from the U.S. Open years ago.
I love that. I have my original CBS Sports blazer when I was doing sidelines at the NCAA tournament back in the closet. I've always been afraid to take it down and try it on.
It still fits, Charles. You're still the same slender man. You're a fine wine. Thanks for the call, Charles.
Be good. Thank you, Rich.
You got it. That's Charles Davis. He's off on a Zoom, by the way, some sort of Zoom. He's
got a Zoom call.
He's zooming. No one's get. That's why I want to, because I don't think I'll be hitting Broncos, Colts, Bills with Nantz very much towards the end of the show. And Nantz is doing some golf zooming. That's why he's joining us in the very last segment.
Oh.
Al Michaels is just chilling in the desert right now, and so he's going to be calling in. Should I read to you what his response was last night? Because again, I was emceeing, if you will. Our three guests joined us all at once on the NFL Network schedule release show.
That was cool.
Awesome.
Al, Joe, and Nantz, left to right, as a matter of fact, chronologically in order of our guest list today as well. Although we did not have Jonathan Banks, the actor who plays Mike Ehrmantraut in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, involved in all that. But so during all this, you know, when other interviews are happening on the air and I'm sitting in my right desk position, I went to Studio 1 because the camera in Studio 2, the internet speed wasn't fast enough for it. I don't want to get into it. But it was an interesting night in the home office.
Engineers, Rich?
Dude, everybody worked. I mean, I don't even, honestly, what happened last night?
It's amazing.
You know what's going on behind the scenes?
It's insane.
Every single producer and director and every single technical person is sitting at home.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And we're all talking to each other through an app, and it's amazing how it all went down yesterday. Yeah. It truly was an achievement. So I said to Al, I don't know if he wants me to read this on the air, but I will do it anyway. I'm texting him back and forth, see if when Nantz can do it, he can do it. We go back and forth. I ask him, can he do the first segment on NBCSN, literally at the top of the 1 o'clock hour? He said he could do it. I go back to Nantz. Long story short, Al's going to stick in the spot where he's going to be joining us. He's going to be joining us around 15 minutes after the hour, in hour number 2, our first on NBCSN.
Got it.
I said, let's stick with you calling around 10:15 a.m. Pacific. He wrote back the following on text. As Shakira would put it, whenever, wherever. Says Al Michaels.
I mean, did not have that on
Didn't have that one on your bingo card?
My Al Michaels text bingo.
Also didn't have on my on my schedule release bingo card, Jim Nantz talking copious amounts of smack in the direction of Joe Buck and Al Michaels last night about the game that he has out of all the Brady games that everybody has. Everybody has 2 Brady games currently scheduled. Yes.
Okay.
That's they had to have figured that one out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That Brady games are let me get this right here. For
Brady
the Bucs,
games, a good fantasy football name, Brockman. Brady games.
Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, as you might imagine, is the beachfront property of the 2020 NFL schedule, okay? And so, let me see if I got it right here. The Buccaneers have, and we'll take your phone calls at 844-204-RICH in a moment. The Buccaneers have 5 nationally televised games, okay? 5. That is the most in franchise history. One better than the 2003 Buccaneers. Why do I mention that? Well, not only because it's that was the previous record holder, but that was the year after they won the Super Bowl. Yeah. So, signing Tom Brady gets the Buccaneers one more nationally televised game than winning the Super Bowl earned the franchise in 2003. All right. Gruden, Sapp, put them all together.
Brad Johnson.
They got 4. Tom Brady's getting them 5. And so does Gronk, too, I might add. The Bucs play 3 primetime games in a row at Vegas in Week 7 on Sunday night, at the Giants on Monday night. So ESPN gets Brady versus the team that the franchise.
Yeah.
Eli's long gone. He's not walking through that door. Neither is David Tyree. Neither is Mario Manningham. It's Joe Judge coaching Daniel Jones. But that game, nonetheless, filled with no doubt video that you, Brockman, have no desire to revisit.
Nope.
That'll be all over the worldwide leader in sports in Week 8. And then in Week 9, the Bucs have a Sunday night game against New Orleans. So the other Brady Breeze game. First, Brady Breeze goes to Fox.
It'll be game of the week.
Second, Brady Breeze goes
Sunday night.
to Sunday night, which also gets Brady 2 weeks before. And the Rams, week 4,
game, Mike.
the visit by the Rams to Tampa, that's a Monday nighter too.
Yeah, week 11.
So that's 2 ESPN trips for Brady. I told you the 2 NBC trips. Okay. There's a Thursday night that Fox will have. That Thursday is in Chicago.
Week 5.
And Fox will get at New Orleans in week 1. And obviously, you name it, versus Green Bay. That'll be on Fox. So I mentioned, though, to Nantz, in terms of the games that you on CBS will have him, are the Tampa Bay games where the Bucs are home and the road game is an AFC team. And those games for them, okay, where the visiting team is an AFC team, it's week 4, the Chargers come to pay a visit. So you could put Nantz and Romo in Tampa for that one. And then the mother load, deep into the Sunday afternoon window.
Baby.
The last Sunday in November. The Sunday afternoon game of Thanksgiving week.
Oh, yeah.
Is Mahomes.
Amazing.
And the Chiefs visiting Tom Brady. And I mentioned that to Nantz, who basically said, and you could see it on my Twitter feed, at NFL Twitter feed as well. He basically says, with all due respect to Joe Buck,
Which was
he said, with
incredible.
all due respect to you, Joe Buck, that game Mahomes at Brady, that's the one that you wanted. I mean, that you could say out of all of the games.
Oh,
It's the defending MVP, the defending Super Bowl MVP of the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs. Also, Brady Mahomes has been already with Mahomes fresh out of the gate.
That deep in the
Great
season,
stuff,
too.
right?
Oof.
Brady Breeze, though, is pretty damn good, and that's why they're serving up that piece of filet mignon in week 1.
I mean, Fox gets Green Bay and New Orleans. I mean, they get 2 good afternoon games.
Oh, my God, but just name them all. I mean, even Atlanta and Tampa.
And
Come
Tampa,
on,
they're
man.
all great. You're right. They're all.
Every single one of them. You can put up whatever you want, Dom. You got over here. Okay, here are the key matchups on CBS. We've got this all ready for Nantz.
Of course.
And in terms of what do you're first of all, I mean, and I'll ask this of Nantz, you are putting you can't flex this game preemptory right on Chiefs Bucs immediately.
Immediately.
If not sooner. I think you put it on Steelers and Cowboys too on November 8th. You're not touching that. And you are not touching Chiefs at Saints either, December 20th. Hands off.
How many
Hands off.
no flex cards do you get?
Good question. 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3.
And
And
about that,
I love that they gave, again, the cross-flex games is what you're going to hear Nantz use the phrase, where you get an NFC matchup placed on your schedule, even though you have the quote-unquote AFC package. Look at that last Sunday.
Yeah.
Rams at Seahawks. I mean, hello.
About that Week
Hello.
12
There's
Chiefs
no
Bucks game, Rich, do you think this is going to be the game with the 2 teams have the highest combined record in NFL history? Like, what are the chances both teams only have one loss heading into that game?
Man.
Like, are we looking too
Dude,
far ahead?
yes, you
do we
are.
think the Bucs are going to be too good?
I mean, how often does it all play out like that? The Chiefs have to visit Baltimore on a Monday night in Week 3. Injuries, you never know.
Okay, but say they're 9-1.
The defending Super Bowl champs and Super Bowl MVP. He had his knee on the side of his leg at one point, and he still came back from that, and they won a Super Bowl.
I get it, but are they 9-1 and the Bucs are 9-2? Like, it would be incredible.
All right, let's sneak in some phone calls right here. Oh yeah, you knew he would be here. You just knew it. This guy has been calling into our show. Should we save him for the NBC crew? Should we save Matt?
Yeah.
For NBC. Matt, I know you're on hold. I know you probably got a baby, but I'm going to save you for our friends at NBC just to hear the Bills' love and angst.
4 primetime games.
Alex in Queens, New York. Let's go to Alex. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. What's up, Alex?
Hey, so to me, I look at the Eagles situation, and I see a guy in Carson Wentz who started 5-6 in 3 of his first 4 seasons. I looked at the fact that last year when the Eagles were relatively healthy, the first 12 games, when they had Ertz and Alshon and Aguilar, he started 5-7. I look at Nick Foles, and no one ever brings this up, but Nick Foles is 24-6 in his last 30 games as an Eagle. We know Carson Wentz has a terrible record versus teams over 500. We know many of the reports of many teammates not liking him. And here's the guy who's never won a playoff game, a guy who is terrible the last 3 out of 4 years. And remember, 2018 versus the easiest part of the schedule, Wentz started 5-6. Nick Foles took over that same team, won out, made the playoffs, beat Chicago at Chicago, and then was a drop pass away from maybe potentially setting up an NFC Championship game versus the Rams, who, by the way, Nick Foles that same year beat the Rams in L.A. And let's be honest, the Rams lost 13-3 in the Super Bowl. I have a really good feeling that if Nick Foles is in that Super Bowl, they win that game, especially when he put up 41 points the year before against the same exact defense that the Patriots had. So this was the worst decision in NFL history, getting rid of a Super Bowl MVP who has had tremendous success as an Eagle. We all know what he's done on other teams, but as a Philadelphia Eagle, all he's done is won. And a guy in Carson Wentz who is terrible for chemistry, and we all know all the reports that came out, and we're seeing the results.
Well, Alex, let me just jump in here. First of all, are you an Eagles fan?
I am not an Eagles fan.
You said because I was about to. No,
I don't
Alex.
dislike them. I don't dislike the Eagles. I root for them when they have Nick Foles because of the success he had with them.
Yeah, but Alex. Carson Wentz didn't miss a snap last year. He was the only guy.
That's the problem.
He was the only guy. He was the only guy who didn't. Okay,
right, but that's my point. He's bad for chemistry. When he's not on the field, they win.
Alex.
When he's not on the field, they're 12-2 in their last 14 games when Carson Wentz is not on the field. And most of those games are against the best teams in the NFL. And even to take that even further, in the playoff game versus the Seahawks, before he got hurt, he was getting shut out. And when McCown came in, no one brings this up, but McCown played really, really well that game. Look, man, Alex, I appreciate the call, and I appreciate the passion. My gosh, I am not here for the Carson Wentz hate. Or the Nick Foles love I'm here for, but, I mean, just take a look at what happened down in Jacksonville. I mean, where was the Nick Foles from Philadelphia? I know he didn't have the same team in Jacksonville, but you could put Jacksonville's running game with Fournette above the running game of Philadelphia's until Miles Sanders began to show up later in the season. And Jacksonville's receiver position was kind of just like Philadelphia's, where everybody's getting hurt. Wentz answered every bell last year. The conversation about Carson Wentz at this point, when we're looking at the Eagles' schedule last year, we're talking about what happens when Wentz gets hurt now that Foles is in Jacksonville. It wasn't if, it's when, and it didn't happen.
A pretty good year. 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns.
And Deshaun Jackson went out in September, and Jeffrey hardly played after October. And a bunch of guys who you had to learn their names, and one of whom who caught the touchdown that put him in the playoffs because it was a great Wentz throw and a great Wentz comeback, was the quarterback from the University of Houston and Greg Ward that got converted. I don't know. I think Alex is in the minority right there. All right, let's go to Matt in Oklahoma because I just don't know when we're going to get him on the air on NBC until later on. I want him holding for an hour and a half. What's up, Matt?
How you doing?
Congrats, brother.
I know. I couldn't believe it last night. It was really hard enough to say a bunch of bad words. I had to keep it PG.
Well, I mean, why would you say bad words? Your Bills. You've been rooting for them forever.
I'm happy. Well, it was bad words out of joy.
Oh, okay.
It's been 20-some odd years that we've been circling the drain. Nobody wanted to see us. I'm kind of nervous, though, because I liked it when we were the underdog. I'm not kind of nervous about this whole being the popular pick. I'm nervous. I'm really nervous.
Well, here's the thing. And we've got the schedule up here. And, on occasion we'll do win-loss, win-loss. Yeah. So home for the Jets, I think, should be a win for you.
Yes.
At Miami, that should be a win for you, even though Miami is improved. And
that's a win.
Okay. Home for the Rams, then at the Raiders, and then at Tennessee. So the question is, when you welcome the Chiefs into your house on Week 6, when the Bills enter the Week 6 contest on a Thursday night with Kansas City strolling in, what's the record? Are you 2-3 and everyone wondering, what's going to happen? 4-1.
4-1. I'm riding it. I don't care. Going down with guns blazing. I'm living it.
So where's the one loss? Rams, Vegas, or Tennessee?
I think maybe Tennessee gets us.
All right.
Derrick Henry scares me.
I mean, you got New England on a Sunday night, right?
I ain't worried about them anymore.
I love it. Well, that's actually a regular.
I know Brockman's going to talk about Stidham. He can have his Stidham and Stidham. I don't care. It's over. It's done. The misery's over. He's gone. It's in Tampa. It's time. Welcome to the rest of us. Welcome to the real world. Reality's coming.
All right, man. I love it.
You guys have fun.
You too. The Bills, did you notice they changed their Twitter handle to Primetime Bills during the schedule release show? Here's the issue.
Feeling it.
Here's the issue. Al has got them Sunday Night Football, home for Pittsburgh, the Jim Kelly Bowl. Buffalo. And by the way, you draw a straight line. I know they're not in the same division, but they're Buffalo, you could say, I think as the crow flies, is closer to Pittsburgh than anybody else in their division. As the crow flies.
Let's see.
You draw a straight line. That's when Jim Kelly made the Hall of Fame, and they had to move the festivities into the stadium, which is where it's been forever. For those who don't know, the reason why the festivities are inside the high school football stadium next to the hall is because when Jim Kelly made the Hall of Fame, they could not use the usual spot for the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was the steps of the hall. And they would have this great lawn between the steps of the hall and the interstate that they would fill with fans up in that sort of space. But when Jim Kelly got in, you could draw a line straight from Buffalo, New York, Pittsburgh, PA, right down to Canton, Ohio. And it was an easy drive for everybody going for Jim Kelly. That's a big game, and the question is, does NBC flex out of that bad boy? Because it could be for a lot of marbles, man. If you're thinking the Bills are winning the AFC East, then they'll probably need to win it to stay in first or keep their wheels from spinning. Pittsburgh with Big Ben, where they're hoping, he's healthy and staying healthy the entire season. The other two games are not flexible. They are Monday nighters, and they are at San Francisco, and they are Week 16 at New England. Those are your Bills nationally televised games.
I mean, that Week 16 could be for the division.
But I just love it. That is the sound. You just heard the sound of a scarred NFL fan who feels forever, my team is disrespected. My team is disrespected. And Bills fans are at the leaders. They're at the forefront of my team is disrespected. They and Bengals fans are at the forefront of, oh, yeah, or Jaguar fans. Oh, yeah, you go to break all the time when my team's on the clock during the draft. I'm in charge of when they take commercial breaks. Exactly.
Lions fans?
Oh, I hear that too.
Yeah.
I hear that too. Disrespected. So Matt has been calling for 5 years. Disrespect this, disrespect that. And now they get the respect, and he's like, I'm nervous about it.
Let me tell you
Because
what.
the spotlight's now on. Now,
Right, exactly.
you've
Now
gotta
you're
do it.
expected to win.
Right.
Yep.
Don't lay an egg, brother. The Patriots, this is what's so impressive about what they did. They were expected to win the division every year, and you know what they did? They won the division every single year. Now it's the Bills' turn.
Oh, dude, though.
And
all right, let's talk.
Don't blow it, man.
Let's talk Patriots for a brief bit.
Don't blow it.
16-0, man.
I love it. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Great Caliendo video today. Let's talk Patriots for a second. Thank you, Don. Week 2, Sunday Night Football.
I mean, that could be ugly.
Jared Stidham,
In
first road start of his career.
no fans.
Yeah.
No fans, maybe.
I mean,
Although we were talking about this last night.
this could be 1-5 heading, 1-4 heading into the
we were
bye
talking
week.
about this last night in my virtual poker group, where we go on an app, we have fun, and with a game of chance, and we Zoom at the same time.
Right.
The question: what about this one? Having fan sound piped into the stadium.
Like
Okay.
it's a Falcons game?
Fan sound piped in, not just for you to be hearing on the television set, but piped into the stadium as directed by a fan grouping on an app where you're hitting it loud.
So like it's third and long, and your opponent
and
that's what
and
they're
it's
piping it a little
and
louder.
it's directly connected to a fan grouping at home.
They're working on something like that, Rich.
Now, obviously,
I think.
if the fans could just sit there and they just blast it as loud as possible, then you have to come up with a decibel level that's commensurate to what the loudest would be. What do you think of that idea? So
love
the
it.
crowd noise is still a factor in a home NFL stadium, and it's still controlled by a fan grouping that is either into it or not. What do you think of that idea?
I think you guys had one too many bottles of wine in
No,
your poker
I'm just-
game last night.
Well,
I don't know.
you're
I
not
don't-
far-fetched, because
I
that's
don't
what
think it's a-
baseball wants to do a little bit.
I would rather than that. I would rather have everything mic'd up, and I want to hear what's going on in the field all the time. And I know
Well, that's not
You're
going to
hear that.
happen.
You're going to hear the mics will still be the
That
same.
ain't happening.
You're still going to see. Now, the mics are all going to be the same. The difference it's going to be is.
So what? So Kansas City and Seattle are going to be louder stadiums than
They always are.
They always are.
I mean,
they-
and I know that's another, fan issue, that my stadium's louder than yours. You don't give us any respect about how loud it is. But I've been to stadiums,
Yeah. I mean, we've all
and
been.
it is louder in New Orleans. It is louder in Denver. It is louder in Kansas City. It is louder in Seattle.
Yeah.
Just off the top of my head, than many other places in the NFL landscape, and there's no arguing that.
Yeah.
You could
I used to
test
bring the
it.
meter out with Steve Mariucci. When we did Thursday Night Football, I would take my SPL meter out, the sound meter, and we would sit, and Mooch would always come up to me, and we would. I'm telling
Mooch
you
tells
right now,
the story. Mooch tells
It's
the
crazy.
story of the first time that he coached in Arrowhead
it's crazy.
as a visiting team, and he was warned, "Hey, at the end of the national anthem, when they sing the home of the brave, land of the free and home of the brave, they'll say home of the Chiefs, and just wait for it." And he's just standing there, and he's in the national anthem, and they say home of the Chiefs, and he just
whoa,
looked
yeah.
around. Yeah. So the 12s, connected by app, could affect a game in a way that the 12s in person would affect a game.
or do you have
I
someone?
don't know how you, honestly, I do not know how you would police that.
Yeah, it would be like.
It would have to be someone from the league.
I mean, because you could have a bunch of 8-year-olds just sitting there,
what I
hitting the
mean.
up button the
And
entire time.
someone's gonna.
You would have to have a
decide
league official in charge of the sound.
Well, yeah.
It would be.
Why not?
It's.
Why not? So the fans, you're still home, but
It still
let me
sounds
hear
like-
you. Let me hear you. Let me hear you. I don't know. We were talking.
QB goes like this,
And
and
by
they
the
quiet
way,
down.
I joined late, so it was a much more sober night for me.
Right.
I joined very late.
Well, I can tell you right now.
I didn't mind. I thought that was a good idea.
Baseball is working on, when baseball plays, to have something like that I'm involved
Have
with.
crowd noise?
To have crowd noise. Yeah, you have to.
I don't want
It's ambience of baseball is half of what makes baseball amazing.
I mean, when you're growing up playing baseball, the only people in the stands are your parents.
Well, I mean, and obviously
let's go back to that.
crowd noise is very intense in the playoffs and what have you, and important. When the towel's waving and everything is going crazy, and it's very difficult. And that's what makes you feel like in May when you're watching your team and the opponent reaches base in the third inning with a guy on first, and you're like, okay. But in October, you're like, the game's over. This guy in first is going to score, and they're going to put up a crooked number. This game's over. Why can't my pitcher throw a strike? Like, the crowd noise does add to that. I totally agree. But if baseball does come back, just give me the crack of the bat. That's all I need to hear.
Same here. But in football, I know we're up against it real quick. What's going to be an issue is if, say, Florida allows fans in stadiums, but California does not.
No, I know.
And so what do we do
By the
then?
way, this is to be continued. I have a feeling this is what June and July is going to be a lot of conversation about sports leagues starting up and what fans' roles can be. But I'm just throwing that out there right now when we're talking about week 2. If there's no fans, New England at Seattle is a totally different ball of wax than if there's fans.
100%.
Al Michaels will be calling in first up. Joe Buck, second up. Then we'll take a break. You can be, by the way, throughout their entire show at 844-204-RICH. We'll take a break from a little bit of scheduling talk, unless Jonathan Banks wants to go through some part of the schedule. The man who plays Mike Ehrmantraut from Better Call Saul and also Breaking Bad will join us, and so will Jim Nantz. That's how we're rolling in the next couple hours. We've been promising him, and he is here. Actor Paul Rudd, who is now here in full Kansas City Royals white baseball uniform with the special gold trim. It's his opening day gear. Wow. And a Royals hat.
No glove.
No glove. Run on the back. 42. Yep. And are those shades from the
They're from Karl Lagerfeld.
Is this Kansas City Royals issued? Did you get because you got the belt, you've got the shoes. Do you have the stirrups?
I have stirrups.
Okay.
I have stirrups. I forgot to pack them.
Or did TSA stop you?
Just said,
sir,
yeah.
You can't go with the royal blue stirrups.
Not allowed to take toothpaste.
If you'd only put it in the plastic bag.
Bottled water and stirrups.
Tell everybody who sent you this. Tell everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And say. Yeah, go ahead.
The jersey?
Yeah.
My mom.
Your mom sent it to you.
My mom sent it to me for my birthday.
Awesome. Come on, man.
Thanks, Mom.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Walking around. Just walk around the studio space. Explore the studio space. There's Paul Rudd right behind me with the sunglasses. Just freak people out. Can we raise the blinds here? So there's Paul. Paul just going back there.
Just walk into the cafeteria like that and see what happens.
There he is, just staring at people as they're going about their business on the campus here at AT&T in his full-on white Kansas City Royals jersey.
Does this affect the flair?
Yeah, this is a flair situation, but there you go. People are looking right in there and saying, wow, what is Paul Rudd doing just chilling out there? There you go. Get down there, Paul. Right here on the Rich Eisen Show.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Daddy's hosting today, kids. Oh, yeah.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
What team are we going to be surprised that gets a little more primetime action?
The Jets, because they're going to go 14-2.
Earlier on the show, CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis. Coming up, voice of NBC Sunday Night Football, Al Michaels. Fox Sports broadcaster Joe Buck. Actor Jonathan Banks. Plus, Jim Nantz. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
It is another edition of the Rich Eisen Show live on NBCSN. Good to see Chris Brockman and Mike Del Tufo, my producer,
Hey, buddy,
and
what's
my
happening?
audio executive, as he likes to be referred to, the voice of Sunday Night Football in America. Football in America, Sunday Night Football, all together on NBC. He is Al Michaels. He'll be joining us first up as we have a schedule. We have a National Football League schedule for the first time in 2020 for our upcoming season. And look, I totally get that we're all freaked out in this world about what's going to happen later today, let alone September. Is it possible that this season is delayed? Of course. Is it possible that the season starts on time and we've got no fans? Of course. Is it possible that the season starts on time and there are fans because the world has changed? I mean, knock on wood if you're with me, to use the Gruden phrase.
Let's go.
So, for the moment, just like last night when I was on NFL Network for 4 hours going over the announcement of the 2020 NFL schedule. By the way, an Omaha was called from desk left, Studio 2 position in my home office to desk right, Studio 1 position. I went from NFL mock draft with Daniel Jeremiah, Studio desk left position, to draftathon desk right position because the internet was a little dicey in my area.
Oh, no.
So we had a little Omaha.
Wow. So
there I was sitting desk right for 4 hours last night, and that's how we're going to handle the next couple hours on the Rich Eisen Show here. And take your phone calls, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. I'm sure you've got something to say about this schedule, about your team, about the team that you love, the team that you love to hate. Their schedule's easier than yours. And we'll put you on the air, and we'll take your phone calls today. But we've got three guys who I had together at one point last night during the NFL Network coverage of the 2020 NFL schedule release. Al Michaels, the voice of Sunday Night Football. Joe Buck, the voice of Thursday Night Football and the NFL on Fox. And Jim Nantz, the voice of the NFL on CBS. All together. And if you had Jim Nantz bringing the wood, talking smack about the Tom Brady game that he has scheduled, as opposed to the Tom Brady games that are scheduled for Joe Buck to call or Al Michaels call. If you had that on your bingo card, it fills up all 5 columns. Bingo. Nantz talking smack last night because CBS has the Mahomes visit to Brady. Now, Fox has one part of one would I think as well. All Brady Tampa games, now that Gronk's there too, is the ultimate beachfront property of the NFL 2020 season in terms of who gets it and who calls it and how you're going to see it. And the fact that the NFL doesn't waste a single second and puts it out there in week 1 means 2 things. One, they know they have to have us at hello in week 1. And two, that the NFL means it, that they are putting this schedule out, and this is the schedule, and there's no other schedule that's sitting out there, and don't look for any nest eggs that you're going to lop off the first 4 weeks and put it on the back end. Or that, hey, we were just going to jam the first 4 weeks all with AFC versus NFC contests because those are the least important games when it comes to tie breaks. That division games, as we all know, is the most important tiebreak, and then the conference games are the most important tiebreak, and then you got common opponents and things like that where the AFC, NFC contests do come into play. But right off the bat, you've got a huge AFC contest between 2 teams that did battle in the division round last year. Watson and the Texans, Deshaun Watson and the Texans visiting Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City, opening night, for Al and Chris and Michelle Tafoya and the NBC gang to bring us in our homes, raising a banner in Kansas City. And everybody wants to see this matchup, with the exception of the Bears front office, because those are the two teams that drafted the quarterbacks that are better than Mitchell Trubisky, who may not even be starting that week 1 game you see on the screen right there between the Bears and the Lions.
Poor Trubisky.
So basically, Chicago and the Bears front office is the only ones that aren't like going to be like, oh, Watson and Mahomes, how great will that be? But it's a great piece of filet mignon right off the bat. And then Fox gets the first of the Breeze-Brady matchups, and it's in New Orleans. The Superdome, where it all began for Tom. I'm sure Fox will have that all teed up.
Oh, yeah, 2002.
Didn't Fox have that game, right?
Yeah, it was
the
first
last
Super Bowl
game
I
that
did
Madden
pregame
and
for.
Summerall
Yes.
called for Fox. When Madden's wondering if
first-
Belichick was going to just, tap out at the end of regulation and go into overtime with his
7
first-year
seconds.
quarterback, this wet behind the ears Tom Brady in that dome. And now here he is
Back
20 years later, starting new with Tampa. I mean, the schedule makers in the NFL front office, headed up by Howard Katz, a longtime television executive in this business. He knows exactly what we're all looking for. And I told this to you, man. And then NBC will get the other Breeze-Brady matchup on Sunday Night Football, as the Bucs have 5 national television games. And obviously there's a 6th they could flex into. Monday Night Football gets 2 Breeze-Bradys. Monday Night Football gets 2 Brady games. Sunday Night Football gets 2 Brady games. Fox gets a ton of Brady games, and CBS gets 2 AFC visits to Tampa, the Chargers, and then the game that Jim Nantz. We usually talk about flex games when it comes to NBC flexing into a game, but last night Jim Nantz had the first flex of the season. I've got Mahomes at Tampa. Great stuff. And then the first Sunday night game we'll talk about with Al, right up the road here in Los Angeles, the new SoFi Stadium. And it's a no-brainer first opponent. Because if anybody, just Google it. Google the history of that stadium up the road. And you will find out that there was another competing site for Los Angeles football to regenerate. And that was way down the road, about 50 minutes an hour, or depending on the traffic, very far from where the current stadium is, right near LAX. And Jerry Jones was one of the more influential owners, as he is today, put his thumb on the scale and say, we're going to that site where the SoFi Stadium is. And guess whose business helped find the naming rights for that stadium? Jerry Jones. It's all, you put it together, and the Cowboys are the first ones up in SoFi Stadium. Cowboys at the LA Rams in that new, beautiful stadium. And again, hopefully filled with fans who are happy to be there, because we are through the looking glass on this awful virus. And it doesn't feel like we're going to have that. But at this point, again, on this first Friday of May, knock on wood if you're with me. And you're with me. Or I guess the second Friday of May, my bad. It all started on May 1st. Long story short, we're here, you're there.
You're here, I'm
here. I just went Chris Myers. I'm here, you're there. I have my hair is perfect. And it is. I look great today, I think. And for those wondering at home, my sweater is plum.
Okay.
So I'm the professor today with the schedule in the studio, killing it.
Let's go.
What's our poll question at Rich Eisen Show, Chris?
I threw up there something last hour. Let's just look at week 1. What's the best week 1 NFL matchup? Here are the 4 big ones. Texans, Chiefs, the Thursday nighter. Packers, Vikings. Bucs, Saints. Cowboys, Rams, Sunday night.
So Packers, Vikings is monumental, man.
That is juicy.
I mean, just right out the gate in Minnesota, Kirk Cousins against Aaron Rodgers, and the first game where Rodgers can just stick it in division against a team that everybody believes is these are the two best teams in the NFC North, with the ultimate respect to the Bears and the Lions, who play each other also in week 1. Love that one. Jets draw the short AFC East straw, having to go to Buffalo. And Buffalo has not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 nationally televised games. 4. They've got 2 Monday nighters, a Sunday nighter that's deep in the schedule, week 15 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're assuming that NBC won't flex out of all of that. But we've got a ton of Bills games that are going to be coming up for your viewing pleasure. And the Patriots open up at home against the Dolphins. And I spoke to my BFF, Bill Belichick, live on NFL Network last night about all that. And so Bill only wanted to talk about week 1. That's it. He wasn't going to go into the schedule.
Down the road. Yeah, not surprising.
But do you have that? Call up that soundbite, Mike Del Tufo, because I did ask him this about his quarterbacks. And this is huge as far as I'm concerned. Because we haven't really heard him talk very much about is it Stidham's gig or not. By referring to Stidham with a nickname and talking about what he's looked like so far or what he's seen of him, it sure sounds like this is your starting quarterback week 1 against the Miami Dolphins.
Stid worked really hard last year. Was our backup quarterback the entire season. And I know he's working hard in the offseason. He's, made a lot of progress in terms of understanding our offense and understanding opponent defenses like all players do from year 1 to year 2. So I'm sure he'll get out there and be ready to go, be prepared, compete hard, and we'll see where it takes us.
Stid's
going to start week 1, bro.
And Stid we trust.
Stid's going to start week 1.
I'm ready for it.
And then week 2 is at Seattle. He's not ready to move on to Seattle right now. He's just focused on the Dolphins.
We don't play Cincinnati, do we?
There's a ton of divisional matchups in week 1. And the NFL, I had Troy Vincent on, the EVP of football operations. That was the second interview of mine that aired during the broadcast last night. And I asked him, is there another schedule? Is there like an 8-gamer or 12-gamer that's sitting somewhere? Or are there any nest eggs for us to look at in here to know about any contingency plans? And his answer was no. This is it. Unless Howard Katz has got another schedule he hasn't told us about, and he's in charge of football operations. So this is it. Week 1, I mean, there are a ton of great games in week 1 that I think if the season is delayed, they're just going to push it further on down the road and keep the schedule as intact as they possibly can. That's it. Week 1's going to be week 1. Week 17 is going to be week 17. And the question is it going? How close is it going to be to the actually scheduled week 1 and the actually scheduled week 17? And Tampa, Florida, I'll tell you this right now, as I'm sure not many hotels are being booked up right now, I'm sure. Just keep the rooms available in March and April, and everyone else will adjust. You know what I mean? Everyone else will adjust. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. We've got Joe Buck, Jim Nantz, and one of our favorite actors in one of our favorite television shows, Jonathan Banks, is going to be joining us. We've been knocking on his door for quite a bit, certainly when Better Call Saul was finishing up its recent season, and he's like, now's the time. I'm willing to call in, talk about that show. Breaking Bad, he plays Mike Ehrmantraut. He was also in 48 Hours. Spoiler alert, his character didn't last very long. He's the one who got thrown through the buffet table at the Harrow Club.
He helped wreck the buffet.
In Beverly Hills Cop.
He was part of the wrecked buffet.
That's what I mean. Lots to talk about with him. But let's take a break. If you're on hold, stay on hold and give a listen to my conversation I'm about to have with one of my favorite people on the planet, the voice of Sunday Night Football on NBC, Al Michaels, next on NBC SN. Okay, so Joe Buck is teed up. Jim Nantz will be joining us after Jonathan Banks. Let's take a phone call right here before we get to Al Michaels. Alan in San Diego has been hanging on for a while. What's up, Alan?
Hi, Rich. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thanks. wanted to say that I think the true test of quarterbacks is usually just how they perform under pressure, how do they perform in a 2-minute drill specifically. And one guy who I've noticed, a young guy that I know you like too, did a great 2-minute drill in his rookie year, and I thought it was a great telling of how he is. Yet I don't think he's gotten a fair shot in the NFL yet. What needs to happen with Josh Rosen?
Hey, we brought this up the other day, Alan.
Yeah.
We brought this up the other day, and, you've got Fitz and you've got Tua. Josh Rosen can be flipped somewhere else, and I think he would love that. Think about that. Kid gets drafted 10th overall, and then the team decides to draft Kyler Murray, ship him to Miami, where he spends 1 year, and then they draft Tua. So clearly he's not a long-term plan, and if he wants to be a starting quarterback in this league, which everybody does, I don't know. I know, Brockman, you're like, call up Miami and take him.
Yeah, before...
You do that in a heartbeat.
I'm all in on Stidham here, but because we have to be, but I was a big Rosen proponent.
I know,
and
and so
before,
I just don't know how willing the Dolphins would be to flip him within division, but I would take a shot on him for sure. Why wouldn't Chicago reach out for him?
Right.
I know that, look, I'm not even thinking about scheme, but Alan, this is the conversation we've been having about Rosen for a while.
Exactly. I mean, I think he's just got untapped potential that it seems like nobody is seeing.
I know. Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
His football life has been very unlucky. He had so many different coordinators at UCLA, and then what happened with Arizona kind of getting thrown out there with a cardboard offensive line and then, shipped to Miami. He really hasn't had a fair shot.
That's true. That's a fact.
Yeah.
There's like Jacksonville. I know. I mean, they do like Gardner Minshew, and for good reason.
I mean, you just mentioned Chicago. Rosen had to have been cheaper to trade for than Foles. Like, I can't imagine Rosen would have cost a 4th-round pick.
Foles is a guy that you can actually win with right now. And Rosen's going to be a guy that's going to go through growing pains. And they've already had enough growing pains with Trubisky. They need to have like a real veteran sitting around there.
Yeah.
But I do feel for Josh Rosen in that regard,
I do too.
bro.
Yeah, I do too.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. When we come back, a great chat with Al Michaels, and then Joe Buck will finish up the hour with your phone calls again at 844-204-RICH. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Had him, Joe Buck, and Jim Nantz together last night, and I'm going to have them together right here on this show with Joe Buck following this conversation. Jim Nantz at the very end of our program to take us into our weekend. We've got the 2020 NFL schedules out. A good friend of mine, which I'm thrilled to be able to say, and back here on the Rich Eisen Show from Sunday Night Football on NBC. Al Michaels, how are you, Al?
I am doing great, Rich. Good to be with you yesterday. Great to be with you today. And hopefully I'll see you down the line in short order.
I agree.
It's so good to see a schedule come out. And, again, it's being very optimistic, and you're on top of it. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or whenever. And, right now, not only did they come out with the schedule, but they came out, I think, with the preseason schedule as well, because we're on the docket for a couple of games in August, so let's see what happens.
You know what? That is basically what I think the NFL wanted to do. Let's just get out there. Let's get it all out there, and we'll adjust once we do get it all out there. And that's why they did that with the draft last week, Al. It's like, because if not then when? And teams can now basically plan as best they can and then adjust. And you look at the schedule, and this isn't like dipping a toe in the pool, you know what I mean, and figuring it out down the line. A real deal raising of the banner in Kansas City with Deshaun Watson coming in, and then you come here to Los Angeles to open up the new stadium with the Cowboys. I mean, that is that's as real deal as any schedule would start for you in NBC.
I was listening to you talk about the history of the stadium, and you and I both know it because living in L.A., but I go all the way back to when the Rams played in the Coliseum, and they were the only team in town. And they decided they didn't want to play in the Coliseum anymore. They moved to Anaheim. And that opened up the Coliseum for the Raiders. So now you had two teams coming in. And then you had both teams leaving in 1994. Oakland goes back to their original digs. Rams go to St. Louis. Rich, I'm thinking about a couple of different things. One of them because a friend of ours, R.D. Hubbard, the great racetrack impresario, he died last week, I think at the age of 84. But R.D. Hubbard had made a deal with Al Davis to build a Raiders stadium at Hollywood Park, where the SoFi Stadium is going to be now. And there was a big sign up there, future home of the Raiders. That went away. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but Al Davis, and only Al Davis could have pulled this off, because instead of getting sued, he used to do the suing, just litigate, baby. But he went to the town of Irwindale, which is nothing but a gravel pit with about 28 people, and somehow, some way, extracted a personal check to him for $10 million. $10 million out of the Irwindale budget, which I had no idea if it had $1,000 in it. He got a non-refundable $10 million check from a guy named Xavier Hermosillo, who was the city manager of Irwindale. And Al felt so badly about it when, what hit the fan when everybody said, where in the world did that money come from, that Davis gave Hermosillo a job in the Raiders front office, I think in the ticket department. So, you can't make this stuff up. You can't. And then so they leave, and now you've got all kinds of possibilities. Farmers Field, remember that? That was going to be built next to Staples Center.
Right.
That went away. Then you had the thing in Carson with all the methane gas underneath there, and that was where the Raiders and the Chargers were going to play, and then Stan Kroenke comes in and rides in and comes into the rescue, and it's only costing them $5.5 billion to get that up, but it's going to be great, Rich.
But Jerry Jones is a no-brainer first guest for an owner to bring his team in. For that one,
Jerry knew. I mean, look, Jerry built the Taj Mahal of stadiums. I mean, that stadium is right now, I think, 13 years old. 12 years old. It's still, to me, it's beautiful. It's pristine. Jerry only does things first class, top grade. And you walk around that stadium, and I mean, it's one of those, the old cliche about eating off the floor. You can. They maintain it perfectly. And he knew in Stan, he had a guy who had the same kind of vision. So the only difference would be, not the only difference, but Texas is a right-to-work state, and California is a union state. So Stan's only spending about 5 times what Jerry did to build his Taj Mahal.
And now he's coming here for week one on Sunday Night Football. And then I'm looking at some of the other Sunday night games. You got Brady twice, one in Las Vegas and then one at home. You've got the other week one is on Fox with Brady coming out of the gate at Breeze, but you've got Breeze at Brady in week 9. That's just going to be dynamite, Al. Just dynamite.
Well, you know what? I look at that game in Vegas, and it's going to be exciting, obviously, to go into Vegas and see what that's all about. But with Tampa Bay going in there in Week 7, remember back, Rich, to January, February, after the Patriots season's over, what is Tom going to do? Where is he going to wind up? Will he wind up with the Chargers? And I think a lot of people thought that he was going to wind up with the Raiders. He would go to Las Vegas, and I think I mentioned on the telecast that we did yesterday, Rich, about I was in Vegas in late February. They were very excited about the team. They were very excited about the draft, and they were really excited. The locals, they thought they had a real good chance to get Tom Brady. So they're going to get Tom Brady, but he's going to be in a different uniform on Sunday night, the 25th of October. And our other Vegas game is on November 22nd, right before Thanksgiving, Kansas City at the Raiders. So our 2 games in Las Vegas this year will have Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and that's pretty cool.
All right, and you've got Ravens-Patriots again. This time around, though, it's Ravens at Patriots. And then last year, obviously, the Ravens just stomping the Patriots was, I guess, a watershed moment in the season last year for both teams. I'm wondering, did you and Chris pick up anything when you chatted with Brady last year about that Brady was out the door, because he has subsequently said, now that he is in Tampa, telling your friend, you have appeared on the Howard Stern show, Al, telling your friend, the king of all media, that he knew he was gone last summer, is what he said. Did you sense any of that when you chatted with Brady prior to Sunday Night Football games in New England last year?
First of all, you are the king of all media. You're on constantly. Forget about Howard. It got a lot of publicity because I talked about this with you and a couple of other people in the past couple of months. So we did that game, which was the 9th or 10th week of the season. Anyway, the Patriots came into Baltimore early in November on Sunday night, and they were 8-0. They were undefeated halfway through the season. And everybody was saying, the schedule was easy and defense. And, the defense was great. They were averaging, giving up less than, I think, 10 points per game. And Brady was doing okay. But that's when Tom said, and he said it with a little bit of a smile in our production meeting, I'm the unhappiest 8-0 quarterback in football. And that's gotten a lot of play out there, but that's exactly what he said. He didn't say I'm the unhappiest quarterback. He said I'm the unhappiest 8-0 quarterback. Of course, how many 8-0 quarterbacks were there at that particular time?
Right.
But anyway, you get the point. But still, I sat across the table, and, we've covered him a lot, through the years. I know him pretty well. And I know how much Bob Kraft loves him. I mean, Kraft talks about the fact he's like another son. And Kraft and Brady have gotten along so famously that even though there might have been whatever it was, and I'm not sure, I don't know what it was with he and Belichick, and if it was anything, I don't know. Maybe Bill just wanted to look to the future. Maybe Tom just wanted a change. Nobody seems to know. I think it was a confluence of events, but I can't say that I really saw, nor did Chris at that point, that it was, a possibility, a scant possibility, maybe, but the fact that he would walk out the door, shocking. And in fact, I was trying to get the answer out of him by saying to Tom, all right, listen, I'm gonna lay odds of 43,000 to 1 right now at this table that you will never wear another uniform. And he kind of laughed. And then one of our top research guys, Andy Freeland, plunked down $2. So now I'm on the hook for $86,000, and I never want to see Andy again.
I bet, and it's interesting, too, Al Michaels here on the Rich Eisen Show. Not one, not two, but 3 Packers games on the schedule. Week 3, dynamite game, Packers at Saints. The latest iteration of Bears at Packers in Week 12. And then a Titans-Packers game all the way at the end. That's a 3G situation right there for you guys as we pop the schedule up here. And we had Favre on this show 2 Wednesdays ago, and he said that the Jordan Love drafting will definitely have the wheels turning inside Rodgers' head. And you're going to watch that drama play out in year 2 of Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers and what's going on right in front of your very eyes with some pretty big games for this team. How do you as somebody who's watched the young Montana stuff, the Favre Rodgers stuff, you've seen this play out before. Do you see this another situation like what we're assuming it is, Al?
Well, you sure made news with that Favre interview. That was something I heard it that day, and I thought that was pretty interesting, obviously, and a lot of people picked up on it. I look at the top quarterbacks through all the years that I've done this. You go to Marino and Montana, and with Brady and the Manning boys, and even Aaron Rodgers right now in his mid-30s, and everybody's saying, well, this is the kind of thing that lights a fire under them. And I'm thinking to myself, and then go back to, Garoppolo, too, when he got drafted by New England a few years back. I know these guys. They don't need a fire lit under them. These guys are all out all the time. And knowing these guys, there's not one of them that I knew wasn't all out, no matter what was going on. So when people say, oh, boy, this will really get Aaron crazy, or he'll be a better quarterback because he's got this guy behind him, I don't buy that. Aaron Rodgers has so much pride and is so intelligent and gets everything that I don't see Aaron Rodgers, because Jordan Love is there on the bench, playing any better than he would had you had anybody else behind him on the bench, like an older quarterback, a guy that wasn't going to take his place someday.
Right.
So I'm not one that buys into the fact that you've got to motivate these guys who are super motivated to begin with, have great pride in what they do, and I'm of a mind to expect them to play exactly the way they would play if none of this was happening on the side.
Yeah, and last year, I mean, you called the Packers-49ers game. That was another watershed moment, I would say. Certainly, that was when the Niners spanking the Packers coming off of a bye week, and that's when I think they kind of grabbed the, okay, they're for real mantra and ran with it all the way through to beating the Packers in the NFC Championship game, and those were the last two Packers losses of their entire season. You got the Niners 3 times, Al, right now as it's currently slated. How good do you think this team is based on everything that you've already seen moving around chess pieces from NFC teams from a free agency draft to the current day?
Very, very good, Rich, because and we talked about it. We had the 49ers 3 times last year. It turned out, 2 in flex, and then we had them in the playoffs against Minnesota. And I keep going back, and I repeated it every time we had the 49ers with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan said the first thing they wanted to do is build a Super Bowl defensive line. And when you look at how they've constructed that team, and if you want to go back to that Green Bay regular season game at Levi Stadium, the 49ers were able to blow them out early because of the pressure that was put on by that defensive line. You had the Rodgers fumble, and then, the roof caved in early. So you've got that defense, which is terrific, and they played very well, of course, in the Super Bowl up until the last 6.5 or 7 minutes of the game. So I look at them defensively, and I think they're very strong. I think Garoppolo's a really good quarterback. I mean, people are trying to pick him apart right now. He's whatever, they want to say. Okay, got it. He's got some good receivers. You got the running backs really came through. They had a whole bunch of them last year. I like the way Shanahan and Lynch have constructed this team. I think they're very clear-eyed. I think they see exactly what they need to do to make this team a contending team, and they clearly are. I mean, they're back. It's like the glory days are back. They had 2 glorious decades. Then the 2000 decade wasn't particularly good until Harbaugh got there, and then they were good again, and then they fell off the end of the earth again, and now they're back. So I think the 49ers look to me like they're a team that's poised for a good long run here.
Well, Al, last night in that conversation that I had with you and Joe Buck, who's joining us in about 7 minutes' time, and Jim Nantz, who's joining us at the very end of the hour, in that conversation we had live on NFL Network last night, I think we had our first flex of the season with Jim Nantz talking about the Mahomes at Brady game, and that's the game that everybody wants on the screen. I think he was flexing right there, Al, and I think he put the preemptory chip for CBS on that game right away. I think you're gonna have to come through Nantz to go get that game on NBC this fall.
I don't know. When it comes to the league making up the schedule, that and 20 cents will get you nothing. You know that. So, you can politic. You can politic and pray and all that stuff. I mean, all these years, living out on the West Coast, I enjoy when the schedule comes out and
Yes.
I see a few West Coast games. And I'm looking at the schedule and I sneak up on it one by one.
Yep.
And I know we have to open to Kansas City, but I'm sneaking up on it yesterday when it came out and it goes, oh, open a game at L.A. Good. I'm in bed that night at home.
There you go.
At Seattle, I'm in bed that night, too, flying back home.
There you go.
San Fran in week 4, great.
There you go.
Seattle, week 5, was Pacific. I'm going, wait a second. What happened here? I mean, this will be my 35th year of doing it. In 34 years, I think I've had 8 games in the Pacific time zone. Now I've got like 11 in 1 year. So I am worshiping at the shrine of Howard Katz.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're mentioning the executive who's atop the scheduling flow chart. You've known You've known Howard since what? Since like some sort of motocross day that you did Wide World of Sports back in the 70s with Bruce Jenner, pretty much back then or something like that?
In fact, my father, who passed away in '83, my father and Mark McCormick started Transworld International,
okay,
TWI, which is a part of IMG. And my father and McCormick ran it, and Howard worked for my dad. over 40 years ago. So we go all the way back. I mean, way, 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 way back. And then Howard, was living out in California. Now he lives just outside of Philadelphia. But we go far, far back. And who would have ever thought that someday, I'd have to call Howard and say, "Man, this is the best. I can do this whole schedule on a Greyhound bus."
I love it. Before I let you go, Al, give me a good Wide World of Sports story. What's the craziest thing you did for Wide World of Sports back in the day?
Without a doubt, motorcycles on ice in West Germany, 1977. I remember that. Without question. That's when I was the new kid on the block. I would do anything. They wanted me to do the scene set by riding down a strip of ice in front of like 15,000 wild and woolly Germans who've been drinking schnapps all afternoon. And I had never been on a motorcycle in my life. I'd barely been on a Schwinn. I needed training wheels, but I'm ready to do this. They put me in the leathers of a guy who's like 5'6" and 145 pounds from Russia. At that point, I'm probably 5'10", 180, and I can't breathe. And now I don't know how to work the motorcycle. I don't know what to do. I don't know, the clutch, a thing, whatever. I don't know what dials to turn. Do I do it with my feet? And all I know is at one point I started to rev it, and had somebody not grabbed the clutch, I would have been launched along with Soyuz. I would have been up there with Yuri Gagarin in space somewhere. But we survived. We made it. And when you're the rookie and you're the kid, you'll do anything. And then all of a sudden you get a little older and you go, "Get out of town, clown."
Yeah. So there was no agony of defeat, basically, is what you're saying.
Oh, there would have been a memorial service that afternoon.
Al, I love you, man. Best to Linda. We'll chat soon.
Okay, take care, buddy.
Thanks for the call. That's Al Michaels. I mean, how many times do you use a phrase, "you can't make this up," right? If you take the shot, Don Bowie, the book's right in front of Mike Del Tufo.
Everyone
that's
needs
the
to read
name of his book.
His book.
You can't make this up.
It's true.
Seen everything, done everything.
I know.
The book was
The Thrill of Victory and the Agony of Defeat.
The guy going over the handlebars. Is that agony?
Well, no, that was the agony of defeat.
The,
I think was the ski jumper, right?
Oh,
Who
the
just
ski
did,
jumper.
yeah. Who didn't
went off that long.
Didn't quite jump.
Yeah, he didn't jump.
Too much skiing. Not enough jumping. Let's take a break. Joe Buck, the voice of Thursday Night Football and also the NFL on Fox. We'll talk about the schedule with him when we come back. Let's sneak in a phone call here. Let's go to Matt in Indiana right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Line 1 for those scoring at home. What's up, Matt?
Hey, in reference, and nice to talk to you, Rich.
Right back at you.
In reference to empty stadiums and piping in sound, wouldn't it be neat to use the jumbotrons to do like a Zoom or whatever programs you have and rotate the fans through and pipe them in?
No, I know, and it's kind of what the commissioner, I think, was doing, right, during the draft. Because, again, I was on Draftathon and not totally having eyes peeled on the linear cable draft coverage. But didn't they have...
Yeah, he had a monitor behind him in his
and the issue is because I've seen that's what they did on The Voice on Monday night as well, as they had fans at home clapping, but you don't hear them. You could see them pretty much, and you might hear one person clapping. I'm saying that there has to be some connectivity on an app. You download NFL Fan app, and it does actually, by the number of people that are,
there's a computer
you come up with an
person that can
algorithm
do that, of course.
where the number of people pressing the loud button.
Yeah, it's like playing a game.
And that there's a maximum number of decibels that you can reach in the stadium based on the maximum number of decibels that was recorded the year before.
Right.
Then that's the way to do this thing.
I'm thinking the players would enjoy seeing the fans also.
Oh, no doubt. And I think the fans should be part of this thing. I'm not saying that they should not. I think it's a great idea. I'm just trying to figure out, and you're I'm assuming basing it on what we talked about at the end of the last hour,
right?
That we're trying to see how, if there are no fans, that crowd noise still is utilized to create a home field advantage for the home team, and also potentially a more enjoyable viewing environment for all of us sitting at home.
I would think so. Hey, thank you.
Right back at you. Thanks for the call. The question is, though, is how is that policed? How is that policed? And, of course, you know, what would the Steelers think about that system when they go into Gillette?
Right. I was going to bring
What
it
would
up.
they think of that system?
So is there 10% goes to the road team? So there's some sort of road.
Yeah, you gotta.
And by the way, what about Chargers games? Does 60% of the road teams get the Chargers? You know.
Oh, bro.
Just saying.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. Let's take a check on the poll question as it's sitting out there at Rich Eisen Show. Chris Brockman, what do you have over there?
Yeah, looking at what you guys think is the best Week 1 matchup of the football season as released last night. Bucs Saints lead the way right now, 59%.
Yeah, man. Walk me through the rest of it, please, would you?
Packers, Vikings, 17%. Chiefs, Texans, the kickoff, 16%. Cowboys, Rams, Sunday Night Football at the new stadium, 8%.
I mean, Brady at Breeze is the piece of filet mignon that I thought we would see later on in the season, but when I saw it wind up as a 4:25 Eastern game, 3 in the afternoon, New Orleans time, that's what we're talking about right there. And a man who, I mean, I know they haven't handed out assignments yet, but you could pretty much book this man for that broadcast with Aikman and the rest of the NFL on Fox crew, the voice of Thursday Night Football as well, our good buddy Joe Buck here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Joseph?
Great. How are you guys?
I'm doing fine. We were just talking to Al Michaels, and we do have Nantz coming on in the final hour too. Joe,
He always gets the last word.
Well, you know what?
Actually,
I think Al got the last word with the three of us last night, saying that the story of the year would be if Romo doesn't pick up a dinner check. That was fantastic. That was good.
Yeah, and not just for his table, by the way. Maybe the entire section or whoever's in the restaurant at the time.
For all the lovers that might be.
For all the lovers. This one's on Romo.
But it was fun. And then, as I said, Joe, as well, that it was the first flex of the season from Jim Nantz, of all people, about him getting the Mahomes at Brady game. That's the game that everybody wants. That was quite. He was bringing the wood last night, Joe.
Yeah, clearly quarantine's got him feeling all crazy. Yeah, I didn't expect it, but hey, everybody's fighting for their own schedule. I know this that Thursday night has never looked like this schedule-wise, whether it's been in the couple years that I've been doing it or in previous incarnations with those other two guys, and it's exciting to even think about that, having national time games that should be that meaningful. And then our Sunday schedule is incredible. And I think it's all kind of a fallout from, I really believe, Brady coming to the NFC. I don't know that people totally understand that Fox bought the NFC for the most part. CBS covers the AFC, NBC, and ESPN are kind of agnostic that way. But I think that when you have Brady, it brings another team and a star power to the conference we cover the most and a division we have covered the least in the past, and makes it really a hell of a deep schedule.
No doubt about it. And then the cherry on top in the form of Gronk, which came out of nowhere for a lot of Patriots fans. I mean, Gronk being part of this too. So Bucs in Chicago. I mean, Brady in Chicago to just start off the Fox edition of Thursday Night Football. That is pretty big stuff. And then again, when I saw Breeze hosting Brady Week 1, I'm like, this is not one of those hedging of bets on what's going to happen in the world with the schedule. That the NFL's like, this is the schedule, and this is it.
You know what? I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that could get lopped off in some people's prognostications. Nope. So yeah, that's interesting. You bring that up. That probably maybe that should have been later in the year, but maybe they're more optimistic than anybody even knows.
Or they're just going to delay the start of the season, and Week 1's going to be Week 1, whether it's in September, October, or November, or what have you. I mean, to just serve, that is sizzle and steak together. That's going to be. dynamite. And I'm knocking on wood that there will be fans in the Superdome on that day, and that you will be physically there as opposed to sheltered in place calling that game. I mean, that would be just unbelievable. This Breeze hosting Brady to welcoming him into the NFC and the NFC South is just going to be dynamite football, Joe.
It really is, and I think when you look at Brady, and I'm a huge fan of, and I don't know him that well. I think I've only done probably definitely less than 10. And Nantz last night said on the NFL Network he's done 100 games of Tom Brady's. That's just proves, that proves the point that they've kind of ridden the Tom Brady, New England Patriots, Bill Belichick train, and now at least part of that has dropped off in the NFC for us. So he's got a lot around him. He's got more weapons theoretically in Tampa Bay than he's ever had at one time in New England, and I think that's always been his calling card and what makes him so great, that he's been able to make it work with whoever they give him. And he's got real talent on the outside. He's got 2, maybe 3 outstanding tight ends. If the offensive line is good enough, I think this is exactly what Brady hopes for. That he's got he's getting older. He's 40 plus, 40 whatever he is, 42. But my God, he's going to have his pick going downfield, and with his mind looking at a defense, I think they could really be good.
Well, you've been, Joe Buck here on the Rich Eisen Show, you've been calling games for Fox almost as long as Nantz at CBS when he came out off the studio at CBS, out of the studio, and was put into the booth to call the top games for CBS. Who would be the quarterback you've called the most? Would that be Rodgers? If you just sat back and thought like 100, have you done 100 Aaron Rodgers games in the same way that he's done 100 Brady games?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I think prior to Aaron taking over in 2008, it might have been Favre. So, for one singular, and that's just really reflective of how they've had 2 guys for the most part there for the last, X number of years. And other teams rifle through them. So you think, well, Cowboy, that's all we end up doing. And 6 of our last 7 weeks, we've got Dallas at Fox in this upcoming season. But that's Dak for now, and it was Romo for a while. Did a ton of Romo games, obviously. But I think it would be either one of those 2 Green Bay quarterbacks would be the answer to that question.
Well, now how about the Jordan Love drafting now replaying the Favre-Rodgers drama, but Rodgers in the role of Favre, and seemingly, I mean, we'll see. I mean, that is going to be front and center, or at least put it this way, behind the scenes. Certainly, if there are Green Bay struggles coming out of the gate at Minnesota, home for Detroit, at New Orleans, and then a Monday nighter home for Atlanta, a 1-3 start there might get something going. I mean, Favre was on the show 2 Wednesdays ago, said an 0-3 start would get that whole thing going in Green Bay, is what he said.
Well, I think draft night got the whole thing going.
Yeah.
And kudos to you and the guys for getting Brett on. And it was great to hear and read about, because I think it was an honest assessment. And I think anybody that knows the personalities there, I don't look. There's no way you can look at the Green Bay Packers, who we've been lucky enough to call, as we said, a ton of their games, and I've called them winning the whole thing. Aaron Rodgers has not been the issue. It's been a defensive problem that's gone on and been persistent even through different coordinators and different personnel. And then, they've whiffed. They've got Devontae Adams. They really don't have a number 2 anymore that threatens anybody. The tight end, Jimmy Graham, has not been what we all remember Jimmy Graham as being. Jones is a tremendous running back, and then they go and they draft another running back. I don't know. I don't think you can assess, at least from the outside, the Green Bay Packers situation and go, that was the necessary move, unless this guy's just unreal. And I can't speak to that. I have no idea. If he's a once in a generation talent, then obviously if you believe that, then you go get him. But If he's not, if he's short of that, then I don't know what you're doing when you got a team that was in the NFC Championship game a year ago and won 13 games. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that Favre kept harping on or falling on was what we were as well, is the trading up. You know, at least back in the day, Ted Thompson could say to Favre, if he did, which Favre said he didn't, that, hey, look, we had a guy fall into our laps who was up there with Alex Smith as a possible number 1 overall selection. This one, they traded up to go get him. And, you know, Dion did come on the show a week ago yesterday and say a dog shouldn't be afraid of a cat and Rodgers isn't afraid of this guy. It's no significance of that. It's just that you and I also know that in this world, at some point, Love is going to need to be evaluated to either flip him like Garoppolo got flipped, and that Rodgers could turn Love into Garoppolo by playing like Brady did, to use that as an analogy. But at some point, they're going to have to figure out what this kid is and who he is. And the question is why would you do that if Rodgers is playing at the age of 36 like we're expecting him to this fall?
Yeah, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, there are a lot of personalities involved, and who knows what goes on behind the scenes. Right. Mike McCarthy's now the head coach with the Dallas Cowboys, and that marriage fell apart. But my God, I mean, even if you do the Garoppolo scenario, what they get for him, a second-round pick? So, you know, you can't really maximize, I don't think, what you could get for a guy that you traded up to get in the first round if he doesn't play. And if he does play, then where's Aaron Rodgers? And, I mean, he's still one of the main stars of the league and is still a guy that can shred a defense. Just give him a chance with adding to what they have weapons-wise. So that was shocking to me.
Joe Buck, few minutes left with the voice of NFL on Fox and Thursday Night Football, and we could go down a Dallas wormhole here in the 3 minutes we have left, but it usually comes down to that week where you spend with the Cowboys, which is a Thanksgiving game, and then the new tradition in the NFL schedule, the Cowboys playing the next Thursday night against another team that played on Thanksgiving, so everybody's got a full complement of rest. And this year it's Dallas hosting Washington and then visiting the Ravens on the following Thursday night. What do you think that story's going to be in that 5-day period, that week period there, Joe? That's it.
I mean, they seem loaded, and they got more loaded. They brought Amari Cooper back, which I didn't think was a slam dunk. And it's funny because when you go back to the beginning of last season, we were firmly in the camp and basically led to believe that we were doing the week 1 game, that the deal for Dak Prescott was going to get done that weekend of week 1. And then it just lingered. And now, you know, here we are, and nothing's still been done with regard to a long-term contract. And that's shocking as well. When you consider the deals they have made. You know, they found a guy that's a great front man for the organization, a wonderful young man, and a really successful quarterback in the NFL. They're not easy to find. And so I'm shocked by that, too. There are a few things that make you scratch your head. Now, if he's being unrealistic, that's one thing. But I think they've got to get something done, and we'll see, you know, if that allows him to relax and take up. Because I know for a fact, at least he told us, they didn't talk at all about a deal after that initial weekend of the season for the rest of the year. So it just seems strange to me.
Joe, appreciate the time. I don't know what it takes to get on Daddy Issues, your podcast with Oliver Hudson. I've got 3 children. I mean, I got 3 children at home. I mean, you know what's going on with me. I'm more than happy to appear, you know, but I know you got the celebs and the stars on. I understand.
Well, no. Hey, don't offer something you can't follow through on.
Well, that was my way of
expect to hear from my people.
I don't know why I went aggressive on you with your pod and promoting your pod that you're doing with Oliver Hudson, but it looks like a lot of fun.
Appreciate it.
No, you got it. Absolutely. I just went Nantz on you at the very end of this conversation.
I know, just dropping bombs and walking away.
Thanks for the time, man. It was good to chat with you last night
course.
and today as well. Best to Michelle. Best to your wife.
All right.
Those kiddos.
Yeah, and best to Susie and the family. And, man, it's exciting just to talk about this stuff.
It is, isn't it, though? It is. And I know, look,
awesome.
we can't, that's what I said at the top of the show here today. Like, people are looking at Roger Goodell to try and get a vaccine for COVID-19. It's just like, let's do the schedule, and if it needs to be addressed, it'll be addressed. But I'm kind of happy to do this thing right now,
Yeah, maybe Goodell and Fauci switch roles for a week.
Okay, let's.
Dr. Goodell.
Fauci coming on.
That's it.
The Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow.
Well, apparently he
quarterback.
I had no idea that Danny DeVito was suddenly doing the draft. That's very impressive.
Yeah. He is.
I love it. Take care of yourself, Joe.
All right. See ya.
That's Joe Buck, everybody. Voice of the NFL on Fox, Thursday Night Football.
Little Jewish goodbye right there.
Hey, I just don't like saying goodbye to Joe. By the way, if Fauci talks about the Washington Nats, that means that the Redskins would get a much better schedule. I assume he's the DC guy, right? Telling you, man, that's the schedule. That's the part for Dallas. What's going to happen on Thanksgiving? The whole country sees Washington in there, and then 5 days, the week later, they're in Baltimore. That's it. That'll be the difference between 6-8 or 8-6. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. We are going to be. Thank you very much, Mr. Jones. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. We will take your phone calls in the very next segment in the very next hour. That also has Jim Nantz calling in, and the man who plays Mike Ehrmantraut in Better Call Saul, Jonathan Banks. That's how we're rolling.
One step back under pressure, and he's taken down. Cam Jordan in the backfield, big hit. And he's off to the races. 15, 10, 5, touchdown, Taysom Hill. Breeze looks to throw, front corner of the end zone, touchdown! Mike Thomas!
We're excited to be delivering pizzas to Honeybee Market, courtesy of the New Orleans Saints.
Hey, this is Tony from Pequod's Pizza, and we're about to make a special delivery for the healthcare workers, care of the New Orleans Saints.
I'm about to make a special lunch for healthcare workers, courtesy of the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints! A special delivery courtesy of the New Orleans Saints.
Thanks, New Orleans Saints, and to those Saints. Stay home, stay safe.
Hell's Kitchen in Atlanta. We're delivering lunch today for Atlanta Police Department, courtesy of the New Orleans Saints.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
Daddy's hosting today, kids. Oh, yeah.
Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
What team are we going to be surprised that gets a little more primetime action?
The Jets, because they're going to go 14-2.
Earlier on the show, CBS Sports NFL analyst Charles Davis, voice of NBC Sunday Night Football, Al Michaels, Fox Sports broadcaster Joe Buck. Coming up, actor Jonathan Banks, plus Jim Nantz. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Oh, yeah, we've got a schedule here from the National Football League. Discussed it for 4 hours last night on NFL Network. We've been discussing it all day here on this Friday edition of the Rich Eisen Show. Al Michaels and Joe Buck called in last hour. If you missed any of that, go to our YouTube stream, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Charles Davis, now of CBS Sports, joined us in our first hour on our YouTube stream in SiriusXM Channel 211. Had the line of the day, 844-204-RICH. We'll get to that in a second because the number to dial. We'll take your phone calls right here, right now, after getting over a couple of headlines of what we learned from the schedule. And there's an NFL story out here that led to the line of the day for Charles Davis. Jim Nantz of CBS Sports is going to finish up strong here on our Friday show.
Take us home.
Jonathan Banks is the actor from Better Call Saul who plays Mike Ehrmantraut and Breaking Bad. Mike Ehrmantraut, the El Camino movie, he's in that as well. He'll be joining us in about 18 minutes' time. And for those who've seen his face right there, he's been around a long time, man. How about this 3-movie stretch run from 1980 to 1984 for him, Chris Brockman? Mike Del Tufo, my guys.
What it do, baby?
1980 was an Airplane.
Okay,
where he played one of the guys in the control tower. He's the one who I believe was trying to land the plane, and there was a turkey in the microwave. 1982. No, spoiler alert. 1982. Well, here's the ultimate spoiler alert. 40. Can you spoiler alert a movie that's from 1982?
Well, I mean,
Come on.
it depends.
48 Hours.
I mean,
which put Eddie Murphy on the map as a movie star. He was as big as they get in terms of Saturday Night Live stars. Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours. The story begins with Nick Nolte's partner getting shot and killed. Nick Nolte playing a cop. The guy who gets shot and killed in the San Francisco hotel.
Don't give him
Jonathan
your gun,
Banks.
Jack.
Don't give him the gun, Jack.
Yeah, don't give him your gun.
Jonathan Banks.
Yeah.
Then 2 years later, spoiler alert, the man who wrecked the buffet at the Harrow Club, we know is Axel Foley, technically wrecked the buffet, but who was thrown into the buffet? Actor Jonathan Banks.
Yeah.
So he really wrecked the buffet.
Well, I mean, technically the buffet got wrecked by him going through the buffet table at the Harrow Club.
This morning.
You going to teach him how to sit and do tricks,
Oh,
too?
my gosh. So we'll have a fun conversation. But we've been all about the schedule. And folks want to call in about it, and we'll take your calls in just a matter of seconds. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Again, Charles Davis was on in hour one, and I said to him, have you heard the Phillip Rivers news? And his response was, another baby?
Another baby?
Which is an instant classic. Instant classic.
I mean, Phil's got 9, so it's not an outrageous question.
No.
So he had baseball and an extra player.
The story is that Phillip Rivers has already announced he's got a coaching gig when he's done playing in the NFL. Now, we all know he's got a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts, and a lot of people think it's just 1 year and done. I don't think so. I think Phillip loves playing football. Phillip's got a huge payday. I know he loves football to the point where you're about to hear, is, if you don't know it, what his next gig is. I personally think he's going to stick around in Indianapolis. Jacob Eason's not ready to go just yet. I know Jacoby Brissett's still sitting there.
Phil's 38, though.
I get it. But look at Brady and Breeze, man. They're playing in their 40s. 38's still a young man's game at the quarterback position. I know Eli's retired, but Big Ben's coming back.
Wow.
Big Ben's got it. Hey, look, you could say what
the BR7 method?
I get it. I
BR7.
understand.
It's not exactly TB12.
I understand that the way that the photographs of Big Ben right now, that they're going from, at quarterback, Duck Hodges to Duck Dynasty. I understand that. But I think when the bell rings, Big Ben will be ready. And he's got a few more Favre-like years left in him, with him gunslinging his way through an NFL season, getting his team in playoff contention, if not tantalizingly close to a Super Bowl, and wondering if he's going to be playing the next year over and over and over again. I think Big Ben's got a few more years left in him, man. Look at that photograph right there on the screen. Hey, that's quarantine Ben. That's stay-at-home Ben. This is a few weeks ago.
I mean, yeah.
Right
who
now,
knows what he looks like now?
He could look like Cliff Kingsbury. You never know. I don't know. I think that's the opposite. I mean, you want to talk football opposite? That's the football opposite of quarantining and what Big Ben's doing, right? That's it.
That's it.
Hey, didn't Glazer say Ben's idea of working out was some beer, golf, and maybe a yoga pose or two? Like, come on.
But this is a young man's game. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, that's the crazy thing about this. He's 36. If you want to translate his athletic ability into what Breeze and Brady are doing, and also the drive, the determination, the chip on the shoulder born from a draft day, he's got maybe 5-6 years left in him. That's the crazy part about this, and we talked about it with Joe Buck and Al Michaels. Go to our YouTube page about what they think. But here's the Phillip Rivers news. Phillip Rivers, when he is done playing, is going to be the football coach at St. Michael Catholic High School in Fairhope, Alabama. Friday Night Lights, clear eyes, full hearts. Phillip can't lose.
Love it.
And that was announced today when he's done. In the interim, the athletic director of the school will be the interim coach. Paul Napstein is the name of the coach there. And again, I'll just sit, I'll always shoot you straight. I think Paul Napstein sounds more like the kid I went to Trails End Camp with. I think I was bunkmates with him in Bunk 10. Paul Napstein. How did he get to St. Michael Catholic High in Fairhope, Alabama? Now that's a story. But in the meantime, he's going to keep the seat warm for Phillip. I love this league. It is a narrative-generating machine. The National Football League is a narrative-generating machine.
That's Southern Alabama by Mobile. Phillip's from Northern Alabama.
Well, I mean, he found it, and they found him. When he's done, his dad, Steve Rivers, was an all-state quarterback. He was an all-state Steve Rivers, was the Athens High School coach. And Phillip was an all-state quarterback in the state of Alabama before he went to NC State, and now Southern California, and now Indianapolis. But Charles Davis, line of the day. You heard of the Phillip Rivers news? Another baby? Fantastic. Let's take some phone calls here on the Rich Eisen Show. Nate in Kansas City's been hanging on for a while. What's up, Nate?
Hey, Rich. How's it going?
What's going on in your mind?
Oh, I was reacting to the Niners' schedule being released yesterday, and I'm really excited for our Week 1 game at home against the Arizona Cardinals.
I love it.
Both of our games last year against them were extremely close. And now they have DeAndre Hopkins, so it's going to be a really exciting start to the season.
Richard Sherman and DeAndre Hopkins, Week 1. Let's go. That's a matchup. And of course, Darrelle Revis will be live tweeting about whether or not Sherm is traveling with DeAndre Hopkins. That'll be great.
And you also have their new linebacker from Clemson, I believe, Simmons, against George Kittle.
Oh,
they're going to have to see if that's going to work out.
I do like that one. I didn't even think of that because that's why you get Isaiah Simmons, is the guy who could try and maybe take Kittle out of the game. And that'll be, and then we'll just see how Deebo Samuel can do with Brandon Ayuk against an Arizona Cardinals defense that does have Simmons in the middle of Patrick Peterson and Chandler Jones, and that'll be a great game, and why the NFC West is trying to say, hey, don't forget about us when everybody's talking about Brady joining the NFC South. That's great. And then, Week 8 is at Seattle. Week 9, home for Green Bay. Week 10 at New Orleans, the Niners at New Orleans. You want to talk about Kittle making a play. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
That's good stuff,
I'm very also enthused about the fact that we are playing the Seahawks at home to the end of the season rather than having to go against them on the road like last season. So hopefully it doesn't require Dre Greenlaw to make a miraculous play on the last second, fourth down sort of situation like it was last year.
Way to bring it, Nate. Call back anytime. That's Nate in Kansas City. Let's go to Tom in Sherman Oaks, California. Right up the road from us. What's up, Tom?
Hey, Rich.
much. Really enjoying your show the last 2 months, especially.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm a Packer fan, like they say, green and gold till I'm dead and cold. But that's not why I called. I have a little Al Michaels info.
Okay. Go on.
Most people on the planet, when they think of miracles and Mr. Michaels,
okay,
of course, think about the '80 hockey team.
Of course.
Well, I caddied for Al for about a dozen years at Bel Air Country Club.
Go on.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
And Al, the biggest miracle, and I never believed in miracles even after the '80 hockey team, but I witnessed Al breaking 80.
No.
At Bel Air.
And
well, if anybody who's ever played golf with Al Michaels knows that him shooting 79 at Bel Air Double C is a true miracle.
Did he have an? Are you saying did he fire it in the hole Eruzione style at one point? Is that what you're saying?
Well, number 18 at Bel Air. You know that green, right?
Oh, sure. That's a tough one underneath the bridge, underneath the beautiful bridge.
Yeah. Okay. So the pin is back right on that little crest.
Oh, that's a long one from the middle of the fairway. If Al hit it, that's a long one.
Well, no, I think he might have been line 3.
Okay.
I think he was line 3, but he was over on the far left side of the green, about pin high. So it's arguably one of the toughest putts on the golf course. Okay. I remember it was a Monday because a bunch of caddies were down in the canyon hitting balls, and they stopped when they saw us on the green. The putt is up the slope at the beginning, and then when you get to the crest, it's got to be dying because it just turns dead to the right and runs down the hill to the hole. Really difficult putt. So all the caddies, I don't know, 10 or 12 caddies that were hitting balls ready to go out and play that Monday. It was a Monday. Stopped and watched this, and I can't really remember who else was in the group. Don Ohlmeyer might have been in the group.
Probably. That sounds about right. Sounds about right for the era that you're talking about. So did he jar it? Did he make the putt? Is that what you're saying? Did he birdie to break 80?
I knew it was going in when it reached the top of the hill, and it went right in the heart. It wasn't going too fast. It didn't hit the hole and jump 2 feet in the air. It just perfect. And he shot 79.
Do you believe in miracles? Thanks for the call, Tom.
Great.
So I mean, there's a lot. Al's brought a lot of people from football and life and business out to play with him, and there's only 5 of us, including Al, that truly witnessed the miracle. And I just wanted to share that.
Great story.
Good story,
Great
everybody.
story.
Way to tell it, too. Weaving in the do you believe in miracles?
Well done.
I mean,
weaving it all together. Skylar in California, you're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Skylar?
Good morning, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Do you got a good story of playing golf with Al, or because the bar's been set very high?
No, man. I just had a couple questions for you.
Sure.
So I'm a diehard Chargers fan, and I actually was born and raised down in San Diego.
Okay.
I just want to know what your standpoint is on the quarterback situation they got going on.
Well, Tyrod Taylor's going to start, man. There's just, it's difficult for a rookie to be ready to make the jump from the Pac-12, despite how talented Herbert is. And I know he had an excellent game in his final game in Southern California at the Rose Bowl, but this is a whole different ball of wax when you're coming out of the gate and with no mini camp of which to speak, and who knows what training camp's going to look like. So I think it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, but Herbert will take the reins at some point. I don't know when that might be. He might show some sort of ability when there is an ability to get a team together and come out of the gate like that. But you got to, you figure, going in with your own Ohio State guy into Cincinnati with Bosa that you can take care of business right there. And then home dates against Kansas City, Carolina, and then at Tampa, at New Orleans. Wow, that'll be a tough start. But I think you go through that crucible with Tyrod Taylor and see how you go and keep Herbert nailed to the bench.
I totally agree with that. 100%.
Oh no, I got the date.
My second question.
No, I got the date, and I got sure. What's your second question? Then I gotta beat it down the road.
Nothing to do with the Chargers. It actually has 100% to do with Philip Rivers, who we were just talking about. Actually,
yes.
Do you think he's going to be more successful with the better O-lineman?
No question about it. And thank you for the call. That O-lineman is
5 healthy linemen.
Oh my goodness. He's never had an offensive line like the one that he'll be playing behind in Indianapolis.
Never.
Come on now. Oh, by the way, I found the perfect spot for Justin Herbert to get the start in his first win. Week 6, New York Jets paying a visit.
Oh, God.
There we go. Herbert's going to come out and touchdown.
Just always looking for trapdoors.
That's correct. I am who I am, Chris.
I believe me. I know.
I only know one speed.
Oh, I know.
Apparently, me counseling that poor 14-year-old whose dad made him a Jet fan. That did pretty well on our YouTube feed yesterday. My own nephew, Lee, whose dad made him a Jet fan. My nephew, Lee. I'll tell you about my nephew, Lee.
Poor guy.
Living and dies. My brother looks at me and he goes, "How did your kids wind up Patriots fans?" And I'm like, "Because I let them decide. Plus, their mother's a diehard Patriot fan, and Tom Brady is a Michigan man. That's how it works." Lee, years ago, asked me if I could, I said, what do you want for Hanukkah? He wanted a Tim Tebow jersey. And I'm like, if I get you this jersey, you do realize this will be an ironic Halloween costume for the rest of your life, not actually you wearing something that is going to be significant in terms of wins for your team, right?
Right.
For our team. You do realize that you will wear this years from now on a Halloween as a gag. But he still has his Tebow jersey.
Well.
And he's the one who sent me that YouTube video of me counseling the Jet fan saying, "I find this familiar." Jonathan Banks of Better Call Saul. I love this program. I love this actor. And I can't wait to chat with him before Jim Nantz joins us on this fun Friday. Yeah, man, right here on I guess that got pushed by the YouTube app, too. I don't know how the algorithm works. A video of Tua talking about Nick Saban's going crazy right now from our Super Bowl show. Right?
Yeah, it is. I have not.
Yeah, so Lee sent me the video of the voice of reason, Rich Eisen's advice to a 14-year-old Jets fan. He texted me this saying, "This hit so close to home for me, ha ha." My brother, he won't even come to NFL Network to watch games on weekends where the Jets play on Sundays. Because he's got to go home, he's got to watch the Jets. And I'm like, Jeff, I've got 10 games. You're a fantasy player. Come, watch all the games. No, he's got to focus on the Jets. So when the Jets play a Monday nighter or a Sunday nighter or a Thursday nighter or have a bye week, that's when he comes in.
Yes.
I'm like, Jeff, what I'm offering you as my brother is what people pay thousands of dollars to a charity for. Come on in.
Just come hang out.
Let's
hang out.
Hang out. You've got your life. I've got my life. We're running around. But this way we could at least spend, watch the early games. Let's catch up. Nope. Got to sit there and focus on how, let me see here, Luke Falk can third string his way through a start in New England. Got to focus on that. Hey, when the Jets played New England last year, can you look this one up?
Sure.
Then you wonder where the trapdoor comes from. Look up when the Jets played in New England last year. Okay? Who was the starting quarterback for the Jets that day? Can you look that up?
Week 3?
Yeah, of last year.
Okay.
Last year, for the New York Jets.
Week 1?
This was mono week 2.
Week 2. Yeah,
don't forget.
It was Luke Falk.
Okay.
He played one game.
Who played wide receiver for the Patriots in New England that day? Can you look that up?
Wide receiver?
Yeah, who played at wide receiver for the Patriots that one time in New England last year? Who did?
Oh.
Who did? Who played his one home game as a New England Patriot in that game last year, Chris? Can you tell me?
No, Antonio Brown didn't play.
He didn't play?
No. He only played one game at Miami week 2.
I was for sure swearing that Antonio Brown played.
He only played at Miami. Yeah. Tom Brady had 300 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Look at this. Look at this. At Buffalo. Home for San Francisco. At Phillip Rivers. Home for Denver. At least it's a short week home game. They don't have to go on the road for that Thursday. Home for Arizona.
KC. Oh, no.
Come on now.
You want a hot take? Jets win week 1. This Bills team is so overhyped.
Oh.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Oh, boy.
Once a New England fan, always a New England fan. He'll be watching games.
We'll be back in a second. Eight 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Jonathan Banks, one of the stars of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, will be calling into this program in a matter of moments. Let's take a phone call from Andy in Florida. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. What's up, Andy?
Hey, Rich. I had a question about, do you believe Cam Newton's being blackballed? Because I can't believe the Jaguars would not go after Cam. The guy is buff. He's ready to play. So that's my question to you. Do you think he's being blackballed?
No, I think that he is, unfortunately, in the COVID-19 vortex right now, where he's got a lot of questions about whether he can play and hold up. And, and then there's questions of whether he wants to be a starter or not. And if you want to give Gardner Minshew a try, or you've got an eye on Trevor Lawrence, this is the worst quarterback for you to be bringing in with his chip on his shoulder, wanting to take control of a situation. And obviously that would be a high-class problem to have if you've got Cam Newton in Jacksonville, Florida, starting to win football games for you, and then you could tie yourself to a healthy Cam Newton with a monster chip on his shoulder for the next 10 years. But if your plan is to...
I'm just saying, they picked up Glennon, and that, to me, makes no sense.
No, I know that, but Glennon makes sense is if you want to give Gardner Minshew the shot, right?
Right.
And you feel like the downside of Gardner Minshew not working out is turning to Mike Glennon, and you have the downside of that being Trevor Lawrence on the backside. You don't want to blow that up with Cam Newton. And that's why, again, and thank you for the call, you sign Mike Glennon, it doesn't mean that they have no desire in Cam Newton. Means that they have a desire to check out Gardner Minshew, and if that doesn't work out, hey, one of the most talented quarterbacks that college football has generated is sitting there atop the 2021 draft. Jim Nantz of CBS will be calling into the show on the back end of this hour to take us into our weekend, but I could not be more excited to have on this show right now calling in. I love this man's work. What he does on Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad has just been amazing. He is Jonathan Banks, the man who plays Mike Ehrmantraut, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, sir?
How are you, sir? I'm good. Thank you very much.
Better for talking to you. That's how I am doing. Who are you channeling from Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan? Who are you channeling for this character?
Well, before we get into that,
Okay.
I mean, you're talking about, if I may.
Please.
If I may.
Please.
You're talking about all these motor geniuses, all these great athletes.
Yes.
And you go through it all the time. Now, I've been watching the local news, and these kids that have not had a chance to graduate, they're highlighting the soccer teams and the field hockey teams, and wonderful kids and talented kids. Now, I would really like to see them. I want them to spotlight and bring on all the guys that were seniors that were still playing on the junior varsity. I'd like to see some of the kids that are having to sling hamburgers just to get through school. I'd like to highlight some of these people.
Okay.
That's my pet peeve for the day.
And that your pet peeve for the day is that people who are not getting the spotlight, but the shaft in what's going on in the world should get the spotlight.
Just the guys, even if they're not getting the shaft, the women and the men that are in the trenches just slugging along, and it starts in high school. It starts before high school. Anyway, how do I channel Mike Ehrmantraut?
No, it's okay. Hold on a second. Hold on. So before we turn there, then. So did you play sports in high school? Did you try at some point to get into sports or in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I mean, I play. That's how I yes, I played a lot of sports very poorly.
Okay.
I could sit on a bench in baseball, and I had a coach that when I said I wanted to try out for the junior class play,
yes,
he said, and all I was doing was sitting on a bench. I mean, and he said to me, Banks, he said, all actors are faggots. And
come on.
I thought, well, yes, no, I tell you. So, and at my 40th reunion, they have you fill out a thing about who inspired you.
Yes.
And so I put down, I said, I'll never forget Coach Sisson's words. And I really do hope the miserable bastard was still alive to read it,
So when I ask who are you channeling, Mike Ehrmantraut, are you channeling yourself at any point, Jonathan?
Well, no, because that would make it too grandiose. Most of the fights I've ever been in my life, I've gotten the shit kicked out of me.
Jonathan, we're on live television and radio right now.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. And so the poop kicked out of me. Thank you very much.
Okay.
No, Mike, we all want to be Mike Ehrmantraut. He gets things done. He survives. I don't know. Yeah. Who do I channel? I don't know who I channel. You stay alive long enough, I guess you see a lot of things. And I do have friends that had to do things that I didn't do. We're part of that Vietnam generation that was a lot of guys were fodder, and some very close friends of mine who are still friends to this day. They went, and they carried my. I'm going to bleep it out. I'm sorry, because it's just the way I feel.
No, I know.
Whether I agree with that war or I don't, my friends had to carry my shit, and I went off to university. And some of those guys who are my dear friends, I still, there's a part of them that's in Mike Ehrmantraut.
Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show, live on NBCSN, Sirius XM, and YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show. So we had Giancarlo Esposito on the show a couple of times, and he said there were some scenes when he would read it on the page, he knew it would be intense for him to actually act out. And then when he did act out, he needed some time after it's all over. Have you had similar scenes like that, either in Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, Jonathan?
Well, I don't mean to be a smart aleck, but it's I let go of things pretty quick. At least I think I do.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way, there's one scene where I talk about causing the death of my son. That you just don't tap into that and then just walk away from it.
Right.
But no. And Giancarlo, let me tell you, Giancarlo is the antithesis of Gus. Giancarlo is so full of life and ebullient and exuberant and having a good time. He's the best.
He is. I love having him on the show, and he and I talk about love of the Yankees together because he's from there. Do you have a favorite baseball team, football team, Jonathan?
Dude, I grew up in Washington, D.C. No, what are you kidding me? My team were the Senators. And a real heartbreaker when there were 8 teams in the American, 8 teams in the National, right?
Yep.
The Senators were perennial cellar dwellers. So they finish in second place around, what was it, 1960, 61, something like that.
Yes.
And Calvin Griffith sells them to Minnesota. I was a kid. My heart was just broken. And it was 2 years later, they win the pennant with Camilo Pascual at shortstop, Zorro Versalles, the premier pitcher, Earl Batty behind the plate. It was the same team. So, yeah, when I was glad in last year, the miracle, miracle.
No doubt.
That they win the World Series. They'll always be the Senators to me, no matter what they call them.
Right. The Nationals, Expos, or whatever. So you were invested in that, watching that last year, the Nationals?
How could you not be?
It was amazing.
How could you not be?
So who's your player? Who's your player growing up then, Jonathan? I mean, who's your favorite athlete? I guess of all time.
I saw Harmon Killebrew play his rookie game at the old DC Stadium, at Griffith Stadium, and I just kind of followed Harmon Killebrew throughout it. I got to tell you though, Brooks Robinson. I've played golf with him before, and every time I see him, I just I want to throw a ball on the ground and watch him scoop it up, no matter how old he is.
And you want to talk about great human beings too? That guy is a human being of all human beings. That guy, I love Brooks Robinson. Yeah. He's a good guy, man. I mean, and just one of the all-time best. I've got Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I just want to go a little bit down your filmography. What was it like on the set of Airplane back in 1980, Jonathan?
Well, for me, I mean, Bobby Hayes is one of my dear friends, but we didn't become friends on that film. It was in 1988 when I met my wife in Spain, and we were doing a film in Spain. But what was it like on that set? I went in to do a job, and I just kind of showed up, and I participated in the silliness and walked away. But, that's the old Kentucky Fried Theater that was over on Pico Boulevard.
Oh, yeah?
Where those guys came from, yeah. The Zuckers and Jim, yeah. And
Lloyd Bridges was in some of the scenes with you, right?
Yeah, and Robert Stack. I got to tell you, those guys. It was so much fun to see them, and they were having a good time. They were cutting up, and they were having a good time. And Robert Stack had a droll sense of humor anyway. But it was fun. I was young. It was fun to be around.
I know. I see some of the photographs from it, and obviously the movie is one of my all-time favorites. And then a couple of years later, you were involved in 2 films with Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours and Nick Nolte. That was a quick cup of coffee for your character. Spoiler alert. And then Beverly Hills Cop, where you were the individual who, I guess, technically wrecked the buffet at the Harrow Club, correct, Jonathan?
I did, but I shot his friend in the head, Jimmy Russo, and Mikey, and Jimmy's a great guy, and Jimmy and I are friends. It was one of those things too, where Jimmy wanted to get into it. I'm slapping him in the hall, and I'm going, "No, Jimmy, we can't." He said, "No, slap me. I want to get out." Jesus. It's acting, Jimmy. Stop it.
I know. So did you actually do your own stunt to go through the table at the Harrow Club, Jonathan?
Louis Elias was my stunt guy for years, and Louis passed away now. But I do the first lift, and I wasn't doing it clean enough.
Okay.
And so Louis comes in, and it's a very smooth cut that you go through there. But no, the one that they used is Louis going across the table.
Oh, okay. Got to check on that.
But I'll tell you what,
yes.
Louis was a player just on Sports Talk. And Louis was, I think, an All-American at UCLA in 1953 or 54. And then played in Canada after that. I think I'm right about that.
Man, oh man. Jonathan Banks here on the Rich Eisen Show, Better Call Saul. So the final season, do you have any idea when you might get back to work at all right now on that, Jonathan? Is there a script anywhere that you...
No, I haven't called anybody either, because it's one of those things where, I imagine these lawyers in these studios are trying to figure out how we get them back in and how we do it. And I would think that for them, I'm the liability, because I'm 73 years old. Now, I'm in relatively decent shape, but at the same time, if the statistics are correct, it might be rolling the dice to send me back in there.
Well, I'll tell you what, you're great at it, Jonathan, and I just hope you stay safe, stay at home, and I love what you're doing in this show. And I know we met briefly at charity golf tournament here in Los Angeles for the American Red Cross. It was good to see you then, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
Right back at
Pleasure.
you. Right back at you. That's Jonathan Banks right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Love Better Call Saul. Love this guy. Love this actor.
So good in everything.
I know. He's great in everything. And it was not him at the Harrow Club. It was his He's a stunt double. And when people come on this show and use the magic words, I guess, correct?
George Carlin,
the George Carlin magic words.
7 words you can't say.
For those out there, I send out my apologies, but people get comfortable on this program, and he says that's the way he talks.
We're friendly.
So he is kind of channeling his inner Mike Ermitrout.
Kind of.
Almost all the time.
Yeah. We've seen him play golf. It
Die
seems
hard
like he's
actor.
that guy, too.
I know.
Yeah,
He couldn't be nicer. Couldn't be nicer.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. When we come back, Jim Nantz will be joining us to take us home on this edition of the Rich Eisen Show on this Friday. All right, we're back here on the Rich Eisen Show here on YouTube.com as well as Sirius XM Channel 211. Jim Nantz will be calling us here shortly on the program. So did you look over the Patriots schedule? Do you have any 2 cents on that subject, Christopher? You haven't really chimed in very much on it other than week 1 and week 2.
16-0, man.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I kind of like the early bye week. Normally, I'd like it in the middle of the season or kind of near the end, just because Tom was an older player, obviously, and so that that rest before the playoffs was always important. But I think the bye being in week 6, where it is, kind of gives us a chance to assess, where Stidham's
You're not
at.
assessing. Stidham's your guy, brother.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, you take the first 5 weeks, you can look at the tape and then process and then,
get ready for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Kind of move forward and then get ready for the 49ers coming in. And then 2 division games on the road at Buffalo, at New York. Look, I think 1-4 is a real possibility to start the season, which is not something we're used to as Patriots fans. But, if you can get a win, maybe over Miami to start the year, maybe Denver, which is kind of breaking in a new quarterback as well, both home games, I think that'd be a good start. Get the kid a couple of home wins. Obviously, Kansas City, Seattle, they're going to get blasted.
Well, dude, here's the deal.
It is what it is.
Dude, here's the deal. Home for Miami, at Seattle, home for Vegas, at Kansas City, home for Denver. And Stidham had better have his sea legs because coming in week 7 to just absolutely lay waste to your team is one James G. Garoppolo.
Yeah, and I think that's a real possibility, too.
Who would love
to
basically say, if you had only done the right thing. In his mind.
Well,
I know.
It was impossible to do. It was impossible.
I get it.
It was impossible.
I get it.
I'm wondering if fans are going to cheer Garoppolo.
Geico.com is a spot for you to go right now and check out your home insurance and your renter's insurance and see how it can be all connected potentially to your car insurance. Put it all together, and it is Geico trying to make your life that much easier in these times where things need to be made easier. Geico.com. It's Geico easy at Geico.com. Jim Nantz when we come right back. Check out our podcast every single day at Podcast One, podcast1.com/Rich Eisen if you want to find it just by getting a link. And all 3 hours of our show can be heard on demand on Podcast One. You can listen to us live every day, Sirius XM Channel 211. You can stream us live every day, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. And we are pleased to be on between 1 and 3 Eastern every single day on our friends at NBC SN. Earlier in the show, we had Al Michaels and Joe Buck. And last night I had those 2 gentlemen on with our final guest of the day to take us into the weekend, none other than my friend from CBS Sports and the voice of the NFL on CBS, Jim Nantz. Hello again, Jim.
Hello, friend. It's good to be back with you. That was fun last night. A little hijinks. Some good laughs all the way around.
Well, Jim, I don't need to tell you, being the veteran sportscaster and legendary voice that you are, you know how sometimes when you're hooked up by a satellite or Zoom or whatever's going on in this day and age with 2 or 3 or 4 people, sometimes you just don't know how the crosstalk is going to go. And then somebody just decides to just lob in a verbal jab in the middle of the crosstalk. And then you figure out how the crosstalk is actually working. That's what happened last night with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mean to go there, but you teed me up. We were coming right off of Joe, and he was excited about the fact that, in your words, that they're going to have Tom Brady early and often.
Yes.
And did I happen to notice that when I first saw our schedule, that the Brady versus Mahomes game, Kansas City at Tampa, belonged to CBS? Did that jump off the page? And it just struck me that I might as well have some fun with it while we're here. We're all friends anyway. So I said, yeah, Joe, you do have Tom early and often, but you didn't get the game that you really wanted, the one against Mahomes. We've got it. Sorry.
I know.
Something like that.
No, that's exactly what happened.
But I think he was a little bit he was a great sport about it, but a little shocked. And then I just thought I'll double down on this and have some be a little playful with our great friend, Mr. Michaels, and talk about what is the most watched broadcast window of the NFL.
I forgot about that one.
And that I understand has gotten some legs as people try to defend this. But I guess my point was they are the number one rated show in prime time, NBC Sunday Night Football, and they should be very proud of that. That's true. That's undeniable. However, as I pointed out last night, Joe and I would take you to the mat to point out that the most watched or the highest rated, because somebody might try to say, well, what's the difference between the most watched? All right, the most watched but also the highest rated broadcast window is that double header window that CBS and Fox alternate with during the course of the season.
Well, as everybody pointed out, that it raises all football and broadcasting boats. Yeah. And as we talked about today, Al and I and Joe and I, we all agree that it was the first flex of the season. Last night, you had the first flex of the football season.
I hate I missed it. I'm going to go back and as you guys just said, we can find all of this and pull up the links. I want to hear what they did have some comments about it, huh?
No, we had fun with it, and because again, it was a fun conversation, just seeing all of us together, talking football, and so many people need it. Obviously, we can discuss about when it might happen or if it happens, et cetera, and so forth. But just to get this, I know you liken it to a Christmas morning when you get the NFL schedule in your hands, and you have every right to be talking about your excitement in that manner. And I'll just give you the floor on what else other than that Mahomes Brady game that might have leapt off the page at you, Jim.
Well, I should just expand your thought about Christmas morning for me.
Sure.
It's one of my favorite. I would say it's in my top 5 sporting events of the year. Now, somebody would say, well, that's not a sporting event. Well, it is for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to find out where I'm going to be going for 4 consecutive months. And I'd love to already start to kind of play these games out mentally, thinking about where the teams might be and what that atmosphere might look like. So when the schedule comes down, and it's been presented to me, actually Rose from your show forwarded it to me, and I just had the CBS schedule.
Yep.
When we were on last night, I still had not had a full grasp of what the overall NFL schedule looked like. But I studied it. I grabbed it, and I excused myself from a little family gathering, and, of course, I just couldn't wait another minute. So I came into my home office, locked the door, put all of the things aside, and looked up on my computer screen and started going through it very meticulously, 1 week at a time. And I just love the reveal. And you guys did a great job, by the way. You have through the years on that show. So I know there are some geeks out there like me who get into the NFL schedule and trying to figure out, what's the main game that day and how all the chips fall. For us at CBS, it was, I think it was a very happy day. It was, I think when you're a Sunday afternoon package, so this would be, I'd be lumping us together here with Fox, you start out by trying to figure out the weight of your doubleheader weeks. We get 8. They get 8 doubleheaders, and we both have a doubleheader on week 17. So it's the 8 that you get handed to you by Howard Katz and company and the NFL that you really want to examine first. That shows you the strength of your regular season schedule.
Yes.
Well, our 8 would definitely match up on paper better than I think anything we've ever had before. To have Kansas City and Tampa, you pointed that out last night.
Yes.
So you got Mahomes against Brady, and as I pointed out, we've watch that movie, and it's always been great. And we'll have the sequel with, of course, Tom in a Tampa uniform. But we also have Mahomes against Breeze. So we got 2 Kansas City dynamite doubleheader road games. We also have Kansas City at home against New England early in the year. New England, Kansas City is a sexy matchup now. We know number 12's missing, but there's been enough, again, recent history with those franchises playing for an AFC championship 2 years ago and a great game at Foxborough this past December and on and on and on. That will be, particularly early in the season, that will be of great interest. And then you get these cross flexes that I know that's lost on some people, but this got kicked in about 5 years ago where the NFL took games out of Fox's allotment, if you will, and gave them to CBS. And they did the same thing from our package over to Fox and some AFC games. This to present the biggest audience you can on some major matchups. So they didn't get lost in a glut of Sunday afternoon games. So short of it is, we have Philadelphia, Green Bay, at Lambeau.
That's a great one.
It's not normally our game, as you know, Rich.
No, it's in December. That's the first Sunday in December, man.
Bingo. And then we got an NFC East game with the Giants at Dallas Week 5. That's huge for us. A lot of people are going to build the perception of what a matchup might be based off of last year's records. I think the Giants are going to be pretty good. I really do. I think that they're going to really surprise some people. I think they're going to be a real force.
There's another one here too, Jim. Here's another one that leaps out at me too, and the Niners at the Patriots. We were just talking about it in the break here, Jim, because that's after a bye week. It's early on in the season. If Stidham is struggling, and it sure sounds like this is going to be Stidham's gig, Jim. Here comes Jimmy G strolling into the house. I mean, you want to talk about, and obviously it makes no sense to sit here and say, well, they made the wrong move because Brady is Brady and they won more times, plural, after making the decision to stick with him as opposed to Jimmy G. But that is, you want to talk about a storyline. I mean, Week 7, the defending NFC champion Niners coming into the Patriots' house. Certainly if New England's struggling with Stidham, that is going to be significant, to say the least.
The Jimmy G return, again, that's one of those games that when you looked at all of the opponent's schedules before the NFL matched them up and sent them out to their networks and distributed the games,
right?
I never would have thought in a million years that would be our game. That wouldn't be that would have been a Fox game. You travel with your conference. So with it being an NFC team, San Francisco on the road, that would not normally be our game. So that was a nice gift. And like I said, it's early enough in the season. It's interesting to look at the Patriots' start to the season. Going to be at home against Miami Week 1. Then they got a Sunday night game at Seattle. Come back home against the Raiders. And then they play at Kansas City. So two winnable home games. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win them both. They might lose them both. They lost to Miami Week 17 this year. But 2 very difficult road games to win. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, at Seattle, at Kansas City.
Yeah.
So, you're coming out of it. Again, they could win them. They could lose them both. But it's start to the season with a new leader under center. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. And then, like I say, you got Jimmy G coming in on Week 7. I knew all along whether Tom was going to stay with New England or not. As soon as we finish Week 17, you see the opponents' matchups for the following year. And I looked at what New England had, and I thought, man, that is the best. That is the best set of opponents that I've ever seen any one team have. That's a marquee team. I knew they had games at the Chargers and at the Rams, and I knew they were going to play again Baltimore, Kansas City, and Houston as part of the first place schedule. But the way all the crossovers worked this year with the NFC, so that meant again Seattle, that meant a much improved Arizona team. I meant San Francisco at home. You just didn't know how they were going to be dispersed. But I knew going in that New England was going to have, like, virtually every game is a great-looking matchup. This was before Tom had made the decision to go down to Tampa Bay. So, we're going to still see them a lot. A lot of people thought, hey, you and Tony might not be seeing the Patriots with the frequency that you used to. But we got to see how this plays out. Their opponents this year, it's a really marquee schedule for New England.
Yeah, they've got the most difficult schedule. Obviously, that's a maybe a mirage of a statistic because, from year to year, things change. I mean, the 49ers are a perfect example of that. At this point last year, they were coming off of drafting second overall. Nobody was really even seeing them in the Super Bowl, but that's exactly what happened. Jim Nantz, a few minutes left with you, Jim. And
I don't like that stat. We lean on it just as much as
we
you
do, right?
But the opponent's difficult, the schedule difficulty. Because I'll give you an example. You guys had it up last night on the screen. So you had Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland were 3 of the top 4 with the easiest schedule. And you know why that is? When you do the opponent's schedule, now they had to factor in Cincinnati
twice
at 2-14, not once, but twice.
Right.
So when you're factoring in the win percentage of your opponent, you're already at 4-28 when you do the math, just because of your matchups that include the Bengals. And that's not a slam at the Bengals, but I'm just trying to show how these numbers. I don't think Baltimore's schedule is easy at all. Cleveland's going to be better. We know Pittsburgh, with Ben healthy, stays healthy. They're going to be better. And then Baltimore has that first place schedule of New England and Kansas City and Houston on top of a game against Philadelphia and the rest of the NFC East. Now, what's easy about that? It just got skewed because of the Cincinnati double record went into the equation.
Yeah, and the one thing we talked about with Joe last hour, Jim, and I've got about 3 minutes left before the show ends here, that he was kind of it landed on him that when you said last night that you've called at least 100 Brady games, and he's probably only called about 10, and most of them were Super Bowls that Fox has had, and that now he's going to be able to call more Brady games. I guess you're going to have Mahomes games, right? And the last 2 MVPs are residing there. And I know you touched upon this last night, that the youth movement at the quarterback spot is what CBS is going to be bringing to the fore over the next couple of years.
Well, the AFC is the cool conference now. You got with Patrick and Lamar, and now I don't want to shortchange Deshaun, but Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, the kids that are coming in to get 3 of the first draft picks, 6 draft picks.
Yep.
With Joe and Tua and Justin Herbert. It's an exciting time for this conference. Your conference really, and we're the AFC network, your conference is as good as the quality and the star power of your quarterbacks. Now, that's not to say the NFC doesn't have it. They got it. They got Brady and Breeze. They got Russell Wilson. And they got some others. We got the young guys, though, that are winning the awards. And one guy that just won the Super Bowl is part of that, and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm feeling really good about where the AFC is going and what that means as far as matchups. And you're right. We're probably going to be seeing, if Kansas City keeps doing what it's been doing, we're going to be seeing Patrick Mahomes with the frequency that we did Tom Brady. But that means that, Lamar Jackson and Baltimore aren't winning any Super Bowls in here? So, those guys, those 2, and some of these others I rattled off on the list, they get things going. That's going to be a heavy part of what our season is going to be for years to come.
Hey, Jim, I appreciate the call today and last night. So last night, just I guess to bring this all full circle, should the NFL and Howard Katz and the commissioner take your statement about the Mahomes at Brady game as the official CBS preemptory that is not to be flexed? Is that the official?
Well, first off, we'll protect the game, so there's no chance that we'll lose the game. As you know how that works. But should that be as of October the 1st? We get to protect one game every week. So,
right.
Barring any injuries, gosh forbid, no, that's not one we're letting go of. But that was so much fun, Rich. Thanks for putting together, because I just love those guys, and Al is a friend / mentor, I think, to both of us. And I've gotten to know Joe so much better in recent years. We've had a lot of fun. And for it to come together last night and share some laughs, it was gold. And I just appreciate you putting us all together. We got to do that next year during the reveal show.
I'd love it. And again, Jim, I just really appreciate your friendship and you calling into the show as often as you do and making yourself available. And I'm appreciative, and I appreciate it. We'll chat again down the line.
Appreciate you, my friend, anytime. You know that, okay?
Right back at you.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
We'll talk soon.
You bet. That's Jim Nantz taking us into the weekend. So, yes,
So
is the
long,
answer.
friends.
The NFL should take that as an official CBS.
Yes.
You are not flexing.
Not a chance.
Might as well have been the memo.
No chance.
Okay. All right.
Very funny.
The good wife, the good, name it, Madam Secretary, all
have
of them
them all.
together. And NCIS, put them all together.
Yep.
Blue Bloods, Tom Selleck. Oh, everybody together. CBS stands as one. You are not touching Mahomes at Brady. NBC. And we're on NBCSN, so I guess we're putting everyone together, I want to thank today's guests, Charles Davis, Al Michaels, Joe Buck, Jonathan Banks, Jim Nantz. That's how we're rolling into the weekend. Our final poll results, Christopher, over there, based on everybody voting at Rich Eisen Show, our Twitter handle. What do you got?
Yeah, the best matchup of week 1. No surprise. Bucs, Saints, 58%.
Dude, man. That is a great week 1 game, late window, Fox, week 1. Starts with Texans, Chiefs, NBC. Sunday wraps up with the Cowboys at the Los Angeles Rams on NBC.
They're all great games.
Come on, man.
All great games.
We got to have it. Let's all put our well wishes in that bin, if you will, and let's all knock on wood if you're with me. Thanks for taking in this latest week and this Friday edition of the Rich Eisen Show. We will be back on Monday on NBCSN and more.